All right, you and I are about to see what happens when the strongest man alive decides he's had enough. Suddenly, a massive centipede beast demands to know why the boy has intruded on its domain and why he betrayed his own kind. Quietly, the boy turns and deflects every single blow with his sword. As the monster shrieks in agony, the young knight coldly reminds him that words are useless for those about to die. Enraged, the beast screams for him to rot in hell before lunging forward for one final attack. Alaric dodges with ease, reflecting that true power brings deep isolation, even if it earned him the title of Dark Sovereign. Hovering in the air, he looks down and wishes they could both live freely in their next lives before striking. With one move, the boy falls, tearing the massive centipede clean in half. The monster's body dissolves into ash, leaving behind a glowing gem that settles into the young man's hand. Gazing at the magical stone of reincarnation, he celebrates his victory, knowing he is finally free from his burdens. Now pay attention, because as he activates the stone, he recounts how he reincarnated into a whole new world. The boy explains that after 3 different reincarnations, he went from the realm's strongest magical knight to a lowly rank adventurer. Years later, in a new kingdom, he rests on the grass until he spots 2 beautiful friends and a cute slime. Alaric smiles as he stands to join them, knowing this is the beginning of his life as a free man. After the stone's magic fades, our protagonist finds himself waking up in a completely unfamiliar place. Waking in a damp cave, he struggles to remember his own identity until a glowing status window identifies him as Alaric. Realizing that is indeed his name, he notices a pack of filthy goblins surrounding him and wonders what these pests are. Suddenly, a booming voice echoes from the shadows, demanding to know what a human is doing in this dark pit. A massive green beast looms over him, a rank B goblin lord, and it clearly does not want any company. When Alaric claims he doesn't know how he got there, the creature laughs, calling him a lying, foolish human. The beast is convinced Alaric is a spy from the Adventurers Guild who got cold feet the moment they met. But it's far too late for regrets, and the monster has no intention of letting the boy walk away. With a roar, the Goblin Lord commands his entire army of smaller creatures to advance. Still dazed, Alaric wonders how things escalated so quickly until he notices a simple wooden twig lying on the ground. Memories of his past life as the world's greatest sword master flood back, and in an instant, he snatches the twig. His body moves purely on instinct as he strikes the first goblin, sending the creature flying across the cavern. The other monsters hesitate, seeing their kin tossed aside like a toy, but their lord barks at them to keep attacking. Driven by fear of their master, the goblins launch themselves at Alaric once again. You and I both know a twig shouldn't be that deadly, but in his hands, it's a god-tier weapon. As the Goblin Lord watches his army crumble, Alaric is bombarded by system notifications as he recovers his legendary skills. He realizes that, as a former sword saint, his body moves naturally the moment he holds anything resembling a weapon. While Alaric is distracted by his thoughts, the Goblin Lord charges a massive fireball and unleashes it at him. The monster is certain that no matter how skilled the boy is, he can't possibly survive a blast of pure magic. But when the smoke clears, the boy is standing there unharmed, having seemingly absorbed the entire magical attack. Shaking with terror, the goblin can't wrap its head around how a human could walk away from its magic. Alaric simply repeats the spell's name and fires it back, obliterating the Goblin Lord in a massive, earth-shaking explosion. After the dust settles, the boy stands amidst the ruins and realizes another set of memories is starting to surface. He remembers that before he was ever a sword saint, he reigned as a terrifying demon emperor in another age. Alaric begins to study his status window, which now displays the combined might of all his previous legendary lives. He explains that he's been through 3 lives, the first being a lowly servant trapped in a soul-crushing job. His first reincarnation made him a demon emperor, while his second life saw him become the ultimate sword saint. Now, in his third life, All those powers are his, even as dark memories of desperate villagers haunt his mind. He recalls those same people calling him a monster after he slaughtered a mountain of enemies to save their lives. And that's where we leave Alaric for now. Trust me, his new life is just getting started. Arthur steps outside, awestruck. He is so desperate to ditch his old life that he has actually reincarnated again. Stick with me, because this story gets wild. He is done with being used like a tool. In this third life, Arthur is making one rule: he is living strictly for himself. Outside the cave, Arthur sorts through his meager gear. He has got a basic sword, some coins, and a bit of travel food. Checking his loot, Arthur figures it is better than nothing. He looks at a rusty blade, wondering if it is even sharper than a wooden stick. Suddenly, a notification pings. He has just unlocked a brand new analysis skill. He activates it, and his eyes glow. Now he can see the hidden stats and descriptions of the sword. The weapon is trash, but Arthur realizes this skill is broken. He can scan literally anything to see its secret information. Still, he cannot scan the surrounding area. He wishes there was someone nearby to give him some actual directions. Pay attention now. A rustle comes from the brush, and Arthur instantly reaches for his blade. Is it a monster? Nope. A tiny, adorable slime bounces out, leaving our legendary hero completely and utterly confused. Arthur realizes the little guy isn't aggressive. No point in starting a fight he doesn't need to win. The slime sniffs his food bag. Is it hungry? Arthur tosses it a piece of jerky, and the creature gobbles it up happily. Just like that, the system triggers. Arthur just earned a bunch of skills for taming wild monsters. As he pets the slime, Arthur feels a connection. He can actually communicate with the monsters in this new world. He realizes his actions dictate his skills. But then, a blood-curdling scream echoes through the trees, shattering the peace. Arthur spots a werewolf, frantically sprinting toward him, screaming for someone to save his life from behind. Arthur thinks this is the perfect chance to find answers. He starts running toward the chaos. He catches up to the stranger easily, casually asking if he has a moment to chat. Arthur starts grilling the wolfman, Caleb, who is baffled. Caleb screams that this definitely isn't the right time for that. Arthur is still confused, asking what the big deal is. Caleb tells him to look back, revealing a massive cockatress charging right at them. The winged beast soars above them, ready to snatch its next meal. Arthur makes a deal, answer his questions if he kills it. In total desperation, Caleb screams yes. Our protagonist draws his sword and turns to face the nightmare. Knowing a basic sword won't work, Arthur buffs it with pure magic. He fires a blue beam that makes the entire forest shake. When the smoke clears, the monster is split in two. Half the forest is gone, and Caleb is looking at Arthur in pure terror. More skills pop up as Arthur's blade shatters into pieces. He managed to power up the weapon for one hit. But the cheap steel couldn't handle his raw magic. Terrified, Caleb calls him a monster and tries to bolt. You saw that too, right? Arthur catches him instantly. We didn't agree on you running away, buddy. Caleb starts begging for his life. Meanwhile, the little slime finds the dead monster and notices a glowing orange crystal inside the carcass. After things calm down, Arthur explains his situation. He's lost his memories and just needs to know where the heck he is. So, Caleb thought he was a demon in human skin, but Arthur promises he only fights hostiles. Caleb finally realizes this kid is totally clueless. The wolfman explains there in the Cockatress Woods, a territory ruled by those feathered beasts. Caleb's party was hunting for rare loot, but when they hit a monster nest, things went south fast. They used him as bait and left him to die. Arthur listens as Caleb sighs over his betrayed trust. Caleb apologizes for venting and admits that anyone who won, 𝒂𝒐𝒘-𝒆𝒓𝒆𝒅, must be a high-tier adventurer. He suggests that Arthur should head straight to the local adventurers' guild. If Arthur gives them his name, they might actually have a record of him. Since Arthur is still lost, Caleb explains that adventurers take on guild contracts for gold and fame. They hunt monsters, find rare items, or track down lost pets. Higher ranks get access to the really legendary missions. The nearest guild is 20 kilometers away in a bustling merchant town called Redfall. Hearing this, Arthur remembers that this kind of job existed in one of his past lives too. Arthur decides being an adventurer is the perfect path. No ties, no masters. Trust me, you and I need to see what he does next. Trust me, you and I are about to watch this kid's journey into a brand new fantasy world. Arthur realizes 20 kilometers is quite a hike and starts looking for a faster way to travel. Suddenly, a massive cockatress appears out of nowhere, leaving poor Barnaby shaking in total fear. The man quickly flees, while our hero wonders what he should do since his sword is broken. Is magic his only hope now? But the beast acts just like his slime from earlier. Arthur realizes it's actually his tamed pet in disguise. Checking its stats, he sees the creature transformed after devouring the magic stone of a fallen cockatress. Since his slime can change forms by eating stones, Arthur thinks this ability is legendary, until a brilliant idea finally pops into his head. Moments later, we see Arthur soaring through the sky on his transformed slime while stating that this is perfect and he can see the city. After landing, Arthur thanks his friend, but knows a giant monster entering the city would cause a massive riot. The young man turns away, prepared to say a sad goodbye to his loyal companion. Watch closely now. This is where the slime reveals its best trick. The slime shrinks down to a tiny, adorable size. Arthur realizes having a hidden partner could be very useful. As they walk toward the city gates, the boy asks if the slime wants to stay by his side. It agrees, so he names it Puddles. Inside the guild, Arthur tells the clerk he wants to become an adventurer. Seeing that the lad wants to register as a newcomer, Alina explains that Arthur should list his combat skills and previous experiences, but this question leaves the young man feeling quite confused. She explains that with so many applicants, the guild now uses past experience to filter the weak from the strong. Thinking back on his previous lives, Arthur decides it's probably best to keep those secrets buried deep. He claims he has nothing special to offer, making Alina worry that his application might be rejected. Arthur thinks if his fate is already sealed, he should probably just give up, until a loud man bursts into the room expecting a fight. Alina explains the situation to Lord Galahad, who sighs and tells her to prepare the testing equipment. Galahad thinks letting a novice like Arthur in would ruin his guild's reputation. He won't tolerate incompetence. He's determined to show him the harsh reality. Moments later, the boy stands before a strange device. Galahad reveals this is a magic meter, a machine that measures a person's raw internal power. If his potential hits 30, he'll qualify for the exam. Anything less and he's out on the street. The arrogant man assumes a rookie couldn't possibly hit 30 and will quit the guild in total humiliation. Arthur then looks at them and asks, "I know what you're thinking, and yeah, we're in for a treat." He calmly asks if destroying the entire magic device would still count as passing the entrance exam, making the staff laugh hysterically at his ridiculous claim. Lord Galahad laughs, claiming the meter handles 99.99, and a beginner couldn't scratch it. Arthur places his hand on the magic circle, realizing he doesn't need to hold back anymore. Suddenly, the entire room is filled with a blinding, white light. Galahad and Alina hit the floor in shock as the meter's numbers skyrocket beyond belief. The machine explodes. Arthur apologizes, while Lord Galahad stands there completely frozen in terror, wondering how a mere boy could possess such power. Stuttering, Galahad claims the device must have been old and simply needed some maintenance. In his head, he's screaming that this is impossible and the kid must be using a trick. He's furious that a commoner would cheat in his guild and decides Arthur needs a lesson in discipline. So, Galahad grants him special permission for the combat exam since they couldn't measure his power. Arthur thinks Galahad is actually a nice guy as they head into a massive, crowded coliseum. Galahad tells him the test begins in 3 minutes and he'd better be ready for a fight. Looking at the crowd, Arthur realizes the competition is fierce until a girl suddenly approaches him. She asks if it's his first time, acting way too excited for a life-or-death exam. Kindly, Felicity offers to answer any questions he has, acting like a seasoned pro. And that's where we leave it, trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. All right, stick with me here. We are about to see Alaric accidentally crush this poor girl's spirit, just by asking if the exam is repeatable while she is sobbing. Riot explains that, since Sir Galen took over the trials, the test difficulty has become truly legendary. Galen steps up, announcing the first trial is swordplay. Only those who can land a blow on him will pass. Sir Julian Serpent steps forward first, drawing his steel as the two warriors clash in a violent shower of sparks. Watching Julian trade blows with the master, everyone realizes this man is a true prodigy of the blade. Alaric notices their skills are perfectly matched, but something feels off, right as Julian mocks the examiner for being nothing special. Galen just scoffs, telling Julian his skills are lacking before effortlessly snapping his expensive blade in two. The boy is speechless, as Galen declares he will never be a vanguard with such pathetic form, and should go back to basics. As Julian walks away in shame, the other candidates wonder if anyone can actually defeat this monster of a man. Now pay attention here. Alaric realizes it was not just skill, but the sheer quality of Galen's blade that won. The examiner calls for the next volunteer, pointing directly at Alaric to step into the ring for his turn. As Alaric prepares to face his fate, Lady Riot cheers him on. Drawing his steel, Alaric wished he could have studied the examiner's moves more, but there was no escaping his turn as the second choice. When Alaric reveals his weapon, the crowd gasps in horror. His blade was completely shattered during that brutal fight with the giant basilisk earlier today. Galen cannot help but laugh, openly mocking the boy for bringing a broken toothpick to a duel. The examiner sneers that if Alaric wants to surrender, now is the time, since he absolutely hates bullying the weak. Accidentally killing a child would be a permanent stain on his prestigious reputation as a royal examiner. Alaric knows fighting with a broken sword is madness, but he has no choice. He steps forward and boldly claims he will win this entire fight in just 1 second. Livid, Galen lunges forward with a deadly strike, screaming insults at the boy. Using his phantom step, Alaric vanishes, instantly appearing with his broken shard at the man's throat. Everyone is stunned as Alaric explains that phantom step lets him slip through the tiny gaps in an enemy's movement. He mastered this as a grand master of blades, and is honestly thrilled it still works perfectly in this new life without any issues. The examiner drops his weapon, admitting total defeat, and granting Alaric a passing grade for the trial. The stadium erupts as the onlookers begin to celebrate and cheer for the young hero. But check this out, just as Alaric thinks he is made, a mysterious figure appears to stop the party. Master Magnus announces a grand sorcery trial as a massive magical orb suddenly appears, floating high above the confused candidates in the sky. Magnus tells the hopefuls they must now prove their worth through magic. Whoever shatters that target passes, and while Alaric thinks it is incredibly simple, the others are terrified by the target's impossible distance. Lady Riot whispers that this trial was clearly rigged from the start, so that nobody could ever pass. Alaric is confused, wondering if the target is made of some legendary material that he does not recognize. Suddenly, the candidates start hurling every spell they know toward the distant target. But every spell fizzles out before getting close. Alaric wonders why they are using such weak magic, or if there is some hidden rule in this kingdom's exam. Magnus suddenly looms over the boy, looking dangerous. He asks why Alaric is just standing there watching, laughing that the boy probably does not know a single lick of magic. He claims if you master one craft in life, learning another is impossible. He claims being a mage and a swordsman at once is completely impossible, and if you can't cast decent spells, you will never be a vanguard in this entire kingdom. He sighs, declaring there is not a single promising candidate this year. Just as he is about to fail everyone, Alaric casually conjures a massive fireball and launches it straight toward the floating orb. The flame grows massive as it flies, hitting the target and triggering a deafening explosion. The crowd is stunned, wondering what a master of the legendary dragon's breath magic is doing at a simple trial like this one. Alaric is just confused, since he thought it was a basic spell. Meanwhile, a hooded figure watches from afar. The stranger whispers that the boy has finally awakened, though his power is still quite unrefined. Dissolving into the shadows, the man says he is looking forward to their inevitable reunion in the future. In the Colosseum, Alaric is trying to wake his fainted instructor to find out if he had passed. So what do you and I take from this? Our hero is officially a licensed vanguard. Let the adventure begin. All right, let's dive into a world where rookie knights start at rank F and climb through glory. Before the guide could finish, Pippa lunged at Julian, shouting that she had finally tracked him down. Julian barely dodged the tackle and realized it was that same energetic girl from the knighthood exam. She apologized for the rush and formally introduced herself as Philippa Arnott, telling him to just call her Pippa. Then, Pippa started pestering him for his name until he finally caved and told her it was Julian. Pippa showed off her new adventurer seal, explaining that after Julian's display, the corrupt examiners were punished and she passed the new test. She thanked him sincerely, claiming everything was thanks to Julian, but he just shrugged it off, saying he did absolutely nothing special. Hearing that, the veteran mercenaries felt a surge of envy toward this high-profile rookie. One asked his friend Zach for his thoughts, who just glared at Julian, calling him a total nuisance. A full day passed, and our hero woke up in a soft-in bed. Staring out at the kingdom, he wondered how long it had been since he slept this soundly. In Julian's past life, every single day was a bloody battlefield, and yesterday had been just as chaotic. Suddenly, pay attention here, the system alerts him that a secret magic skill was acquired, leaving him totally baffled. He stared at the system for a second, but decided to just ignore the weirdness. Being an adventurer meant extra gold for a room, so he figured he would just sleep a bit longer. Crashing his piece, Pippa kicked the door open with a loud morning greeting. Julian asked why she was up so early while she stared in shock at him resting on a sludge. The young man explained that the inn's bed was simply too uncomfortable. So his sludge familiar transformed into a mattress. Julian mentioned that after some wild events, the creature became his loyal companion, naming it Slimy. Pippa remarked that Julian was incredible for taming such strange monsters. A comment that actually caught Julian off guard. Suddenly, she leaned in with a creepy grin, asking if she could give the little creature a squeeze. Before Julian could even react, the girl was already diving onto Slimy, only to remember exactly why she came there. The young woman shouted that she completely forgot to mention the entrance exam was not actually over yet. She explained that even after passing the first part, a secret final trial remains, meaning they were only temporary recruits. Julian realized losing his license would be a massive headache, so he had to take this secret test. Pippa knew he would agree and mentioned she had already picked up a popular quest, asking him to party up. Now you saw this coming, right? Julian immediately turns her down, leaving her absolutely devastated. Pippa asked why, but Julian just said he preferred working alone, though he appreciated the kind offer. He headed for the door, asking how she accepted a mission so fast, while Pippa wondered if he would really be okay on his own. The girl kept insisting because she was worried about him, but Julian insisted that being alone was just fine. Pippa looked crushed, stating she was nothing special, but watching Julian during the exam had motivated her to become a better knight. That is why she wanted to learn from his strength firsthand, asking him one more time to please come along. Moved by her words, Julian realized he still understood nothing about this world or himself. For now, staying with Pippa seemed like the better path. Finally, the young man agreed to join her, making her light up with joy until something grabbed his attention. Julian told her to go ahead while he changed, but he clearly felt something suspicious lurking nearby. Once she left, the young man opened his window, staring at a distant bell tower and pointing his finger. Julian charged a bolt of fire magic and launched it straight at the bell. 2 spies watching through binoculars were caught completely by surprise and hit instantly. The fire bullet shattered their lenses, and one of the scouts could not believe Julian hit them from such a massive distance. His partner decided their best move was to retreat and report Julian's terrifying power back to 𝒐𝒃. Confused, Julian could not think of a single reason for someone to be stalking him. He did not think he had done anything to earn a deadly grudge yet. Just then, Pippa shouted his name, and Julian followed her back into the deep woods to start their first official mission. Looking to the brush, he spotted 2 small, low-rank woodland creatures. The 2 beasts sensed Julian's overwhelming presence and bolted in terror. Julian noted the missions were much more peaceful than he expected. And that is where we leave it. Julian's journey into the wild has only just begun. Wait. Philippa had dragged herself out of bed early just to snag this mission, and boy, was she proud. Let's see how Julian handles this. He casually calls her amazing, leaving poor Philippa absolutely flustered. When Julian drifts off course, Philippa warns him the north woods are the other way. Julian wonders if they can't just forage here, but she shuts him down fast. Philippa warns him that this area is way too lethal for beginners like them, as this is the eastern wilds, home to high-tier monsters. She starts dragging Julian away, insisting they stick to the safer north woods for their medicinal herbs. Julian realizes he actually woke up right on the edge of those eastern wilds. And yeah, it was definitely crawling with elite beasts. Julian casually mentions that, by the way. He took down a cockatress yesterday, but Philippa just laughs it off like it is some bad joke. They finally reach the clearing, but while Philippa expects a field of gold, Julian immediately notices something is very wrong. The medicinal herbs, they are already completely gone. Julian figures someone beat them to the punch. Philippa is fuming. She really thought they would be the first ones on the scene. Then, pay attention here, because a knight named 𝒐𝒃 shows up with his crew, smugly telling our duo they are out of luck since his team just harvested everything. Philippa asks who they are, and 𝒐𝒃 claims he is a seasoned veteran they can trust. Julian recognizes these arrogant goons from the guild reception desk just the other day. 𝒐𝒃 notices their rookie licenses and offers to share some of his massive haul, acting like a total saint. Philippa's eyes light up, asking if he is serious. 𝒐𝒃 just grins, saying brothers-in-arms always have each other's backs. Crying. The girl can't believe her luck, thinking she's met the kindest knights in the kingdom. She swears she'll never forget this. But right as she reaches for the herbs, 𝒐𝒃 drops them in the dirt and grinds them under his boot. You and I saw this coming, right? 𝒐𝒃 shows his true colors, calling Philippa a pathetic loser while destroying the harvest. Laughing, 𝒐𝒃 says that being a knight is about fame and fortune, even if you have to crush others. As this is no place for weaklings who cannot stand alone, or for clueless children who know nothing about how the world really works. He tells the pair to give up and crawl back to their tiny village. Julian realizes this guy is pure trash and wonders if they were the ones stalking him this morning. He cannot remember ever crossing them, while a frustrated Philippa demands to know what is wrong with these people. The girl rushes off, telling Julian there is still time to search deeper into the forest for any scraps left behind. Julian knows if he does nothing, he can kiss his license goodbye. He needs a win and fast. But hunting for herbs by hand is totally impossible for just 2 people. Suddenly, his pet slime, Pip, hops out of his pocket to save the day. The boy asks his little buddy what is up, since he already fed him. But Pip is frantic, suddenly sending a direct mental link straight into Julian's brain. Julian catches on instantly. He winds up his arm to throw the slime, telling the little guy he is counting on him. He launches the creature high into the sky, where it suddenly grows massive before splitting into hundreds of tiny pieces that spread across the entire forest. Philippa is losing her mind at the sight, but Julian just gives a smug look, promising they will have their herbs in no time. Every little piece of Pip starts vacuuming up medicinal herbs, quickly forming a giant pile for the duo. Philippa is absolutely floored and starts cheering with pure joy. Julian gives Pip a well-deserved pat on the head, telling his companion they have got more than enough to head back to the guild now. But Philippa looks strangely troubled and tells Julian to go ahead to the guild without her. She wants to stay in the woods a bit longer to find something by herself. A while later, deep in the trees, we see the girl whispering about how amazing Julian really is. She stares at the single leaf she managed to find all by herself after searching for hours. Philippa feels like a total failure compared to him. Zach's cruel words are still ringing in her head. Furious, she tells herself she will never reach her goals at this rate. She needs to prove her own worth. She starts leaping through the branches like a true scout, determined to find something special to prove she isn't just dead weight. Finally, she spots a hidden clearing overflowing with rare medicinal herbs and starts gathering them immediately while celebrating her first big victory. With this, she will finally be a real adventurer. But wait, trust me, you and I both know that low growl means serious trouble. A great white wolf has appeared. All right, you and I are about to watch a simple forest stroll turn into a fight for survival. Staring down a foul beast, Philippa realizes she's strayed way too deep into the woods. As the wolf stalks closer, she grips her hilt, knowing she has to stand her ground. But the crushing fear of being a mere rank F adventurer starts sinking in. Could she really take down a creature like this? Just as she's about to back away, Julian's voice echoes in her head, reminding her of the hidden strength she actually possesses. That's the spark she needed. She's an adventurer, too, and she's done being the damsel who constantly needs a knight in shining armor to save her. Dropping into a defensive guard, Pippa vows to finish this fight on her own terms. The beast lunges for her throat, but she catches the snap of its jaws right on her blade. She's slammed back against a tree, but she keeps her head. She needs to time her next move perfectly. The predator doesn't wait, charging again and splintering the bark right where her head just was. But Pippa's already airborne. She brings her sword down with everything she's got, burying the steel into the wolf's skull and ending the fight in a single, desperate strike. Breathing hard but victorious, she lets out a small cheer. She actually did it, but before she can celebrate, shadows move in the brush. An entire pack of these things is closing in right behind her. Now watch this. Things are about to get desperate as the wolves surround her. Pippa freezes, squeezing her eyes shut as the end finally approaches. Suddenly, Julian sweeps in from the shadows, catching the terrified girl in his arms. Seeing him there, her heart nearly stops. Julian just gives her a look and says, "I'll take it from here." He sets her down gently, before turning his attention back to the hungry pack. She's confused why he's even here, so Julian explains that without her help gathering medicinal herbs earlier, he'd be lost. He considers this a debt he absolutely needs to repay. Turns out he's been tailing her the whole time, impressed by how quickly she's been moving through the woods. He even compliments her last fight, making her go bright red. Honestly, who wouldn't blush at that? The wolves roar, ready for round 2. Julian remembers the water magic he picked up yesterday at the tavern. You and I are about to see if a little glass of water can actually become a weapon. As the spells begin to glow, he whispers an apology to the beasts for making this quick. A massive vortex of water erupts, washing the front line of the pack away like toys. A few are still standing, which honestly just annoys him. He realizes this magic is great for trapping enemies, but it lacks real finishing power. They lunge again, but this time he draws his steel with a grin. It's time for a little variation. He swings, his blade gleaming with a lethal, fluid coat of water magic. This is high-tier stuff, the legendary ice sword technique. Even as the wolves snap at him, Julian slams his blade into the earth, sending jagged spikes of ice erupting through the soil to impale his foes. Watching the carnage, Pippa is breathless. Julian is even more powerful than she ever imagined. But she notices a problem. For every wolf that falls, 2 more seem to take its place. She warns him that these packs follow a strict hierarchy. There must be an alpha lurking somewhere nearby, a boss commanding this entire army from the shadows. Julian gets the message. Cut off the head of the snake, and the rest of the pack will scatter. Suddenly, his familiar Lime starts calling out to him telepathically, leaving him momentarily dazed and confused. Closing his eyes, he taps into his tamer bond, seeing through Lime's eyes to locate their true target. There it is, the rank C silver wolf. He smiles and tells his pet she did a fantastic job. In a blur of motion, Julian charges, carving a path through the pack like a hot knife through butter. He fires off a guided fire shot, the bolt weaving through the thick trees toward the silver wolf. But this isn't a normal beast. It senses the danger and leaps clear just in time. Julian realizes all these trees are making it way too easy for the beast to hide and dodge. So, he decides it's time to get a lot more aggressive. He starts channeling a massive fire spell that has Pippa shaking in her boots. Julian shouts for Lime to get clear of the blast zone immediately. He unleashes a literal inferno, a colossal fire whirlwind that turns the forest into a furnace. The boss has nowhere to run. It's engulfed instantly as a massive cloud of ash and smoke fills the clearing. The alpha is charred to a crisp, leaving Pippa absolutely stunned. She screams, asking what kind of madness that was. He just shrugs and calls it basic fire magic, which she definitely isn't buying. High-grade magic stones drop from the remains, and she tries to congratulate him on the massive loot haul. But then reality hits. How on earth are the two of them going to carry all this back? Julian stares at the mountain of herbs and loot, realizing he needs a new spell. Stick with me. You and I are about to see how he solves this. Stick with me. We are about to watch Arthur break the entire world's power system. Elsewhere, Alina is showing the guild's receptionist the mana stone she harvested from her hunt. The clerk is stunned by the stone's quality, barely believing Alina took down a rogue wolf alone on her very first hunt. She offers her congratulations, noting that slaying a Class E beast on a first mission is legendary. Alina beams with pride as the guild worker officially recognizes her as a formal rank F adventurer, a moment that makes the young girl incredibly happy. She starts jumping with pure joy while Arthur watches, telling her how proud he is of her. The guild attendant then calls Arthur forward for his turn, but the receptionist quickly notices that the young man is standing there completely empty-handed and asks him to wait. He calmly explains that he just needs a moment to retrieve his loot from his storage. Suddenly, he triggers his spatial magic, summoning a mountain of rare herbs and monster parts. The entire guild hall freezes in shock, wondering where on earth he was hiding all that treasure. Arthur reflects on how spatial magic allows for the total manipulation of reality and realizes just how convenient this skill will be for him. He wonders if these rapidly growing skills are linked to the long years he spent living in his previous world. The guild analysts are absolutely floored by the sheer volume of high-quality items he brought in. Now pay attention here. As the analysts sift through the massive loot pile, they find a rare wind stone and realize Arthur must have slain a legendary silver wolf single-handedly. Arthur simply nods yes. He asks if there is a problem with his loot, leaving everyone completely speechless as they rush off to consult their superiors. Alina tells her friend to stay calm, certain that he will be granted his license very soon. Hours pass by until a high-ranking official finally emerges from the back rooms to address them. The lead analyst thanks Arthur for his patience and informs him that because of his incredible feats, he is being promoted directly to rank B, as the guild needs heroes like him. The registration begins now. But to everyone's absolute horror, Arthur declines, stating he prefers to remain at rank F instead. You and I saw that coming, right? Alina is so shocked she literally screams at him once they get outside. Arthur just shrugs, claiming that a high rank seems like more trouble than it is worth. Alina argues that a higher rank equals status and better pay. Arthur knows that rank B means constant guild summons, and he has no intention of repeating the same mistakes from his past life. He declares his wish to live freely at his own pace as a rank F adventurer alongside her, and Alina can't help but think he is one of the most amazing people she has ever met. She admires how he stays true to himself regardless of what others think of him. Alina admits she is not like him, as she barely survived a single wolf while he took down a pack. Arthur stops her, insisting she has strengths he lacks and he could not have passed without her help. Besides, he truly believes she is incredible. Alina vows to train harder to catch up to him, and he simply tells her to do her best. Nearby, the noble Celas watches from the shadows, his eyes burning with pure hatred and irritation. Celas turns to a masked assassin lurking in the dark, asking if the job will be done, and the jester-masked killer confirms the target is as good as dead. Noticing Alina stretching, Arthur asks if she is tired after such an exhausting first day in the field. He tells her to go rest, and she reminds him not to stay up too late himself. As she walks away, she waves goodbye and thanks him for everything that happened today. Arthur stands alone until his stomach growls, reminding him that he has not eaten since the sun rose. He spots a nearby tavern and decides to celebrate his successful haul with a proper, hot meal. The tavern keeper starts to welcome him, but stops dead in his tracks, wondering why Arthur is here. Arthur realizes this is the beastman he spared in the forest, who is annoyed Arthur forgot his name. As he takes a seat, the beastman explains that he is officially retired from his life of adventuring. He admits he lost the heart for battle after his old companions abandoned him to die in the woods. He serves up his signature black spaghetti dish. Arthur takes a bite and praises the chef's incredible skill, which makes Barnaby swell with pride, remembering his old days as his party's primary cook. And that's where we leave it, trust me. You and I haven't seen anything yet. All right, you and I are diving into a world where a simple exam changes everything for our young hero Julian. Inside the tavern, Barnaby warns Julian that his sudden fame might attract a dangerous man named Celas. Julian is confused, but he realizes Celas is the same predator he saw lurking in the forest and asks if Barnaby knows him. Barnaby reveals Celas was an old comrade who abandoned him, a snake who ruthlessly exploits others for his own selfish gain. The wolfman explains that Celas now hires assassins to hunt down rookie adventurers, just to steal their hard-earned bounties. Julian wonders aloud if the assassin looks anything like the freak, currently smashing through the tavern window right now. A strange figure in a jester mask lunges at our hero, but Julian quickly manages to sidestep the strike. The masked freak introduces himself as the great and terrible 𝒕𝒂𝒚. Barnaby recognizes the killer as the notorious Jester of Death and watches in horror as 𝒕𝒂𝒚 swings his massive scythe, lunging to attack his enemy once again. Julian blocks the heavy blow, wondering why on earth he keeps attracting such random and violent grudges. Julian's sword shatters from the impact, leaving him weaponless and forced to dodge the Jester's relentless, lethal strikes. The battle tears through the tavern, while Julian stays light on his feet, dodging every swing. The arrogant Jester mocks Julian for running, claiming that he is the strongest warrior in the room. Now pay attention here. Julian can't use fire magic without burning the tavern down, so he needs a plan. 𝒕𝒂𝒚 lunges to finally finish the fight, but Julian notices the shelf behind him and darts aside, letting the Jester smash the glass bottles into the air, sending shards flying. Our hero catches a bottle in midair. Julian imbues the glass with magic, telling Barnaby he is borrowing it, before slamming the assassin with a massive magic shockwave that floors him for good tonight. With one clever blow, the assassin falls. Julian looks at his broken blade and asks Barnaby if there are any decent weapon shops in the city. The poor wolfman is in shock over his destroyed shop, so Julian quickly offers a clumsy apology for the mess. Outside, Celas watches the whole thing in a rage, realizing his plan failed and Barnaby is still alive before running away. Julian eventually arrives at a famous blacksmith shop that Barnaby recommended, hoping to find a blade that actually lasts. Inside, a knight is loudly complaining to the blacksmith about her broken sword. The dwarf blacksmith tells her to shut up and stop insulting his craft. The red-headed knight snaps back, furious that her brand-new sword shattered immediately after she walked out the door. She refuses to leave until she gets a real answer for why his steel is so incredibly brittle and weak. You and I can see Julian thinking this is just one more headache, while the blacksmith desperately tries to offer the girl some compensation. The knight insists she doesn't want a refund or a fix. She demands a better weapon in exchange, but the smith says there are none to be found. Julian uses his special appraisal skill on the broken blade and declares that while the smith's talent is perfect, the raw ore used is absolute garbage metal. Seraphina asks who he is, while Master Hob looks impressed. Master Hob is impressed by Julian's sharp eyes and explains they used to get high-quality ore from the northern mines to forge their blades. A massive stone golem has taken over the area, forcing the poor smiths to work with whatever low-grade scraps they can find around here. The shop is doomed. Julian grabs a cheap sword from a barrel and tosses a bag of gold coins onto the wooden counter. Our hero tells the blacksmith he will take that blade and go slay the golem himself right now. Master Hob is stunned, and Seraphina laughs, saying nobody fights a giant stone golem with just a basic sword. Julian simply says it is all about how you handle the weapon, and he will bring back the best ore. Seraphina follows him out, introducing herself and demanding to see his adventurer license just to make sure he isn't a lunatic. Julian complies and shows his license. When she sees he is only rank F, she screams that he is basically suicidal for even trying this. She explains that rank F adventurers are called turnip pullers because they are usually too weak for real combat and could never kill a golem. Julian just asks why she cares so much, since his death wouldn't affect her life at all. She blushes, admitting she just hates seeing people die for nothing, and insists on coming along to help him until Julian finally agrees. And that's where we leave it for now. The duo has finally reached the dark mines. You and I are about to watch a simple rank F adventurer encounter a massive golem. Brandishing her heavy sledgehammer, Beatrice claims the enemy is right there, and she will finish this quickly. She lunges at the stone giant, telling Arthur to watch her movements closely. The golem tries to strike, but she dodges and scales its massive arm. She uses that momentum to vault over the golem and land a devastating blow on the monster. The fight continues as she lands several hits. Arthur watches, noting the golem has incredible power and durability. However, it is quite slow, and Beatrice uses that to circle around and hammer its back relentlessly. After battering the stone beast, the girl returns to Arthur's side. She brushes it off, saying that was nothing for her. She explains a golem's back is its weakness. But before she can finish, the monster hurls a magic-charged boulder straight at the two of them. Beatrice is frozen, but our hero steps in front and cleaves the massive boulder in half. He then strikes the golem with several lightning-fast cuts, destroying it. Beatrice is left in total shock. She demands to know how he did that, but Arthur simply replies that he just cut the stone beast. As he follows her into the cave, the system notes that slicing a golem like butter simply isn't normal. She also claims he just got lucky this time, and Arthur simply nods along to keep the peace. Now watch this, because things are about to go from bad to worse for our duo. Arthur readies himself, saying since she thinks he was lucky, he will try again on these guys. Nearby, Cedric's group is watching in disbelief, unable to believe a low-ranker actually destroyed a golem. Cedric fumes, swearing he won't forgive the holy house until a mysterious figure appears in the shadows. A masked assassin holds a magic crystal ball while Cedric questions who he is. Meanwhile, Arthur is absolutely demolishing those stone golems. Beatrice can't believe her eyes as Arthur finishes off every single stone giant with ease. Arthur mentions he cleared the room. He collects iron ore, thinking it will be perfect for making new weapons. Looking at a bag of magic stones, he decides he will give those to his companion, Lime. Beatrice finally asks who Arthur really is, only to hear that he is just a rank F adventurer. She thinks he is joking, unable to process how someone this strong is at the bottom rank. Arthur insists he isn't joking as he really is rank F, but a voice mocks him from the shadows. Cedric shows up and calls Arthur a nuisance. Beatrice realizes these guys are definitely not his friends. Arthur knows they are after him and decides he cannot involve Beatrice in this dangerous fight. He orders Leo to take her to safety. The beast grows larger, lets her mount him, and sprints away. Let's pause. Why is this guy so obsessed? Arthur is just trying to do his job. He doesn't recall doing anything to earn Cedric's hatred, but the idiot just lets out a laugh. Infuriated, Cedric reveals that no matter how hard he tries to break Arthur, the boy just ignores him. The jerk claims Arthur is invading his territory and calls him a terrible person for it. He orders his thugs to attack. Arthur easily swats aside the 3 men lunging at him. They drop for a second but snap back like monsters, charging and grabbing onto Arthur's limbs. Arthur is stunned. He thought he knocked them out, but then he realizes they are under a dark berserk status spell. Even Cedric is losing it. Charging his magic, Cedric screams that it is over and fires a wind blast. Arthur is pinned and can't move. Taking a direct hit like that would be a total disaster. The blast connects, burying the area in smoke. Cedric thinks he's won until he sees Arthur has moved. Arthur is actually casting his own wind magic, and the system notifies him of new spells learned. He launches it at his enemies, sending the entire group flying into the air with one massive blow. Cedric's group is scattered like dolls. Arthur realizes he can learn new magic just by seeing it once. He thinks it's all over until he notices someone else, then demands to know who they are. A figure emerges from a black portal, surprised that Arthur actually noticed his presence in the shadows. The masked man admits Arthur exceeded his expectations and says it is a pleasure to meet him. He introduces himself as Sir Nero. Arthur realizes that when he launched his attack earlier, Nero used a master-level barrier. Trust me, you and I aren't ready for what comes next. All right, you and I are about to watch a lowly F-ranker shock an elite knight of the realm. He offers the boy a grim choice. Join the Order of Nocturnia or perish right where he stands. Arthur feels a strange sense of familiarity looking at Alaric, as if they had met in another lifetime. Memories of his past life flood back, showing men wearing the exact same uniforms as this noble knight. He remembers his time as a sentient blade, suffering under the cruel shadow of this very same organization. Rose asks the commander if he is one of the numbers, visibly trembling as she speaks the word. Alaric is stunned, claiming only his inner circle knows of the numbers, meaning Arthur must be one too. He demands the boy reveal his palm, explaining that every member carries a magical rank. Alaric then shows his own mark, the number 928, etched deep into the skin of his hand. Arthur stares at the mark, realizing that every high-ranking member of this cult is branded by these digits. In this hierarchy, the lower your number, the more terrifying your power. Arthur pulls off his gauntlet, wondering if his previous rank has followed him into this new human body. Alaric freezes as he sees the number 0. Magnus yells that it's impossible, as that specific rank was retired 5 centuries ago. Arthur is confused, knowing that rank 1 was supposed to be the absolute peak. Now pay attention here, because this 0 reveal just broke every logic of power in this kingdom. Furious, Magnus charges forward, swearing to execute the boy for trying to trick them with a fake mark. Moving like a total blur, the massive knight begins to circle Arthur, taunting the young man to see if he can even track his lightning-fast movements. Alaric strikes, but Arthur dodges with ease, admitting this knight is the fastest opponent he has faced in this life. The knight is baffled by the miss, while Arthur calmly analyzes the strange weapon Alaric is wielding. He sees the blade is poisoned, deciding to keep distance from those deadly strikes. Arthur hurls a massive fireball, not to kill, but to trap the knight and limit his lightning movements. Alaric deflects the flame, laughing at the weak magic, but Arthur simply smirks. He didn't need it to land. A hidden blade of wind cuts through the smoke, nearly taking Alaric's head as he realizes he was distracted. You saw that coming, right? Our hero is playing 4D chess with this arrogant knight. Alaric doesn't realize his feet are already encased in ice. Panicked and stuck, he can only watch as Arthur fires a crushing water vortex his way. Alaric is now completely encased in ice. Arthur begins layering his sword with multiple enchantments. The knight tries to bargain for his life, begging him to stop, but in a single flash, the blade cuts through the ice and the man. Looking down at his frozen foe, Arthur vows that he will never be a slave or a weapon again. In this second life, he will live for himself. Back at the smithy, Barnaby the dwarf shouts that he's succeeded in creating his masterpiece. He presents the legendary blade to the counter, while Arthur offers his sincere thanks for the hard work. Inspecting the stats, he notes its durability should hold up, at least until he spots something very unusual about the metal. Arthur realizes the smith used rare materials and asks if he's sure about giving away such a treasure. The smith smiles, saying it's the least he can do since Arthur saved his shop and his spirit. Humbled, Arthur thanks him again. He still can't believe the smith went this far for him just for slaying one stone golem. With a legendary sword and a fresh skill in his arsenal, he feels like things are finally looking up. Suddenly, Rose and Alice call out his name, clearly having something urgent to discuss with our hero. The two girls share a tense look, both seemingly confused by the other's presence. Alice jealously asks if he has a thing for well-endowed ladies, while Rose insists their relationship is purely professional. Arthur just ignores the drama and walks away, thinking that life as an F-ranker is surprisingly chaotic. Back at the guild, the clerk asks what contract he's looking to take on today. Arthur asks for a high-paying monster hunt, explaining to the clerk that he needs more gold to buy the expensive magic stones his pet slime loves to eat. The clerk smiles and suggests a perfect job for his current level, a massive goblin hunt. Arthur accepts immediately. However, there's a catch. As an F-rank adventurer, he's legally required to form a party for this specific mission. Arthur points to the notice board, having already found a group looking for one more fighter for the hunt. At the fountain, you and I can see the new party waiting, confident that 3 people are enough for any goblin. All right, you and I are diving into a story where a supposed low-ranker is actually a total beast. Lydia looks annoyed at his presence, but admits she was waiting for him. After inspecting his gear, she is actually impressed. He fits the requirements perfectly. She asks the young man for his adventurer license and begins to carefully examine his rank and history. Suddenly furious, the adventurer tosses it back, shouting at him to get lost since he is just trash rank F. The man storms off with his 2 companions, muttering about wasted time and deciding the 3 of them can handle it alone. Julian wonders if he somehow insulted them, thinking to himself that finding a party is much harder than expected. He debates just taking the mission solo, even though it goes against the official guild rules. But without a team, it was impossible. Out of nowhere, Rosemary appears and asks what he is doing out here. After hearing the story, she sympathizes with his struggle. Julian thanks her, knowing he could not have taken the job without her. She thanks him too, relieved she did not end up joined with Lydia's arrogant group after all. Rosemary reports that the northern forest goblins are already hunted out, so they are going to head to an area roughly a 2-hour trek west. Julian notes that it is quite a distance. Rose warns that if they do not hurry, other knights might beat them to the prize. It would be great if they had a faster way to travel. Julian reveals he has a way to get there fast, calling on Lime until the creature begins to glow and transforms into a massive cockatress, stunning Rosemary. As they soar through the clouds on Lime's back, she wonders what that thing even was. Julian acts like this flying mount is totally normal, but Rose insists this is definitely not common. They soon land in the Western Highlands. Julian thanks his mount while Rose struggles to catch her breath after that speed. Spotting a nearby lake, Rose admires the stunning view, while Julian agrees it feels incredibly peaceful here. The girl walks to the shore, remarking on how crystal clear the water is. Julian senses danger. Just as an arrow whistles toward her, he snatches it out of the air, Watch this reflex. Rose apologizes, as Julian realizes the goblins are using clever tactics to surround them while their guard is down. Scanning the trees, Julian counts over 20 of the monsters hiding in the shadows. All of them are armed with bows. A volley of arrows flies toward him, but he parries them effortlessly. Rose is impressed by his skill. Suddenly, several goblins emerge from the brush and begin to close in. Julian draws his blade to end it, but Rose tells him to hold on for a second. Drawing her own steel, she asks to fight with her own hands, determined to prove she is a real adventurer who won't shame her family. Rosemary charges straight into the fray. Stabbing through the monsters, she declares she won't be a useless burden like before, fighting with incredible courage against every enemy that comes her way. Julian watches, impressed by her spirit, but realizes the sheer number of enemies might eventually overwhelm her. Julian begins chanting a powerful spell, asking her to stay on the front lines as a shimmering blue aura completely envelops her body. Weightless and powerful, she carves through the goblins with speed she never knew she had. This girl is on fire. While she is still dazed by the power, Julian tells her to focus on the ground troops. He turns his gaze toward the archers in the trees. As they fire at him, he prepares to strike. He unleashes magic through his blade, blowing the creatures right out of the branches. After finishing off the last of them, Rose cannot believe they actually took down that many monsters with just the two of them. She quickly demands to know what he did to her body, while Lime starts absorbing the remains, but Julian just calls it a basic magic enhancement. The girl snaps back that this is definitely not normal. Staring at Julian, she realizes this boy is truly something else. Suddenly, her legs give out and she starts to collapse, making Julian rush over. She admits she was nicked during the fight, though she thought it was just a minor scratch. But Julian sees the status screen. She has been hit with deadly poison. He explains their blades were coated in venom, and Rose realizes these goblins were far smarter than the typical monsters they face. Julian asks if Lime can draw the poison out, and the creature immediately hops onto the wound to begin the healing process. Julian even gains some new spells from the process, and Rose feels much better, thanking the little creature. And that is how our hero saves the day using his new magic. Stick around, because you and I are just getting started with this journey. All right, you and I are about to watch a low-ranked knight shock everyone with ancient magic. Julian reveals he only just mastered the spell, which leaves Beatrice fuming since holy magic is considered extremely rare. She insists they hunt the goblin nest, certain a powerful chieftain must be leading such organized monsters. Julian reveals he knows the exact location, even though Lady Beatrice doubts the goblins would be found so easily. The boy explains he tracked the survivors by marking them with a specialized trace of limestone powder. Suddenly, the small creature transforms into a glowing arrow and begins pointing deep into the dark woods. The two companions travel through the dense thicket until they reach the jagged entrance of a cave. Julian confirms the location, but Beatrice warns him to wait since a nest contains far more monsters than they have ever fought together. Julian recalls the goblin lord he faced before, fearing his previous magic might not work this time. Pay attention here. Julian is considering blowing up the whole cave, but Beatrice has a very different plan. Just then, Lord Cedric arrives with his band of arrogant squires. Cedric thanks Julian for the guidance before calling him a commoner, while Beatrice wonders if the young knight actually knows these annoying people. Cedric gets incredibly annoyed, shouting that the two of them just met at the fountain this morning. Julian remembers them now, realizing he sensed someone following from behind, but never actually expected it to be those arrogant people from town. Cedric admits Julian's skills aren't terrible for a low-ranking knight, even though he still clearly looks down on him. However, Cedric intimidatingly orders Julian to retreat, claiming the horde ahead is far too much for him. Stepping into the shadows, the knight sneers that Julian should go back to pulling weeds in town. Beatrice realizes this is the group Julian mentioned earlier and feels relieved she never joined their pathetic ranks. She warns that, as they enter the nest, They must move with caution against the hidden threats. Cedric's followers cling to him in fear, and the arrogant jerk tells them not to worry at all. Julian finds it strange that they have traveled so deep into the cave without seeing a single goblin. You saw that too, right? This isn't just a simple hunt anymore, it's a massive magical trap. While Beatrice complains about the zero visibility, Cedric pathetically tells her to stay calm because he is there. Julian realizes the monsters are using the fog to mask their numbers and prepare a deadly surprise attack. Julian warns they are coming just as several snarling creatures charge out of the dark. But the two fighters manage to hold their ground, cutting down the first wave of attacking monsters. Beatrice notes their high numbers, while Julian realizes the goblins are relying on massive hordes and perfectly coordinated surprise attacks. Despite the danger, Julian feels strangely confident, while Cedric boasts that these monsters are far too easy. The girls are briefly impressed, until a massive blue hobgoblin suddenly towers over the arrogant Lord Cedric. Cedric wonders if the creature is a goblin before foolishly declaring, "It will be easy to defeat," charging forward to land a killing blow. He tries to strike the beast. However, his blade shatters instantly, and the creature grabs Cedric by the hair, smashing a knee into his face before throwing him to the hard stone ground like trash. Terrified, Cedric begins running away while screaming for help. He sprints past the two women who accompanied him, leaving them to be grabbed by the throats by the massive blue goblins. The monsters prepare to feast, and the girls scream out for help. Julian instantly decapitates the monster, turning to ask if the young women are okay, which leaves them absolutely speechless. He tells Beatrice to guard the survivors, as more elite goblin warriors begin to surround him from all sides. Julian notes these aren't normal goblins. They have transformed into massive berserkers with twice the usual power. Unleashing a torrent of wind magic, he vows to end this quickly, blasting his enemies into the stone walls. Suddenly, a goblin shaman appears from the darkness, complimenting Julian on his impressive display of combat skill. Julian realizes this is the boss, while the shaman calls the boy cruel for slaughtering so many innocent goblin brothers. He speaks of a dark revenge, as a swirling purple magic begins to rise from the lifeless bodies of the monsters. The dark magic paralyses Julian, while the shaman reveals the dead goblins were merely sacrifices to power his wicked spell. Julian realizes he is totally paralyzed. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how he escapes this. Julian finally acquires that cursed magic. All right, you and I are watching Julian purge that energy easily, terrifying the goblin before he begins to conjure that same magic right back at the elite monster. While charging the strike, Julian says the same magic used against him will now return to the dark shaman. At that moment, the spirits of every goblin sacrificed by the shaman are launched directly back at him. The dark magic hits, causing the monster to literally melt away until he is nothing but a skeleton. Julian notes the shaman was clearly the most hated by his kind, and later we see him peacefully fishing near the coast, wondering if this is finally the quiet life he wanted. The boy remembers his first life in London, where he never had a single moment of free time like this. Perhaps his thirst for freedom comes from all the experiences he had in his past lives. Mary and Elizabeth suddenly tackle Julian, saying that after being saved, they realized he was actually quite charming. He recalls them being in total shock back at the cave, but apparently they have recovered very quickly. Elizabeth offers to do anything to help, and Julian thinks they are much friendlier than the last time they met. He asks them to bait his hook, but when they open the box, they are startled by the squirming worms. Immediately, the two of them run away in fear, leaving Julian totally confused by their reaction. Now pay attention here. He spots a massive whirlpool where his float was and realizes he has hooked something absolutely huge, so he starts enchanting his fishing rod with magic. With a massive heave, he manages to yank a terrifyingly huge shark monster from the water. The creature lunges with no escape, but Julian draws his sword and slices it in half, instantly gaining a new fishing skill. Suddenly, Julian hears a voice and wonders what is coming next, just as 𝒂𝒈𝒂 arrives and asks what the hell that was. The girl ends up slipping in a puddle of monster blood, and Julian asks what she was doing there. 𝒂𝒈𝒂 snaps back that she should be the one asking the questions. She tells Julian to get ready for training, explaining that adventurers must attend monthly drills or lose their licenses. Julian realizes this is a problem, and therefore agrees to go with the girl. She grabs his arm to drag him, but slips again on the shark guts, so Julian says they should clean up first. A bit later at the guild, the two of them head towards the training area. 𝒂𝒈𝒂 gets nervous around the crowd, while Julian wonders what they will be forced to do there. Suddenly, a woman with violet hair announces that every student has finally arrived. Lady Astrid leaps down, declaring that training for the rank 6 adventurers is officially starting. The others recognize her, and Julian asks if she is famous, which leaves 𝒂𝒈𝒂 looking totally stunned. Trust me, you need to watch this part. She is a rank 2 elite and the youngest prodigy ever. Annoyed, Astrid says she is only here to recycle the trash in this rank and turn them into something better. The low-rank fighters feel insulted, calling her a brat, and one guy even grabs her by the collar. He warns her not to get cocky just because she is a child, but suddenly he is launched into the sky. Astrid says she hates wasting time and will educate these rank 6 losers through actual combat. She orders the trash to charge her, and several adventurers rush forward at once. With a whip-like strike of her arm, she drops everyone in seconds and looks down at them with pure disdain. 𝒂𝒈𝒂 is amazed by her elite strength, but then Astrid turns her full attention toward Julian. The girl notes that Julian realized fighting her was pointless after correctly measuring her true power. Because of that judgment, she thinks he shows promise. Julian thinks she has it wrong, but Astrid decides she likes him and will give them both a special fencing lesson. Deep in the woods, 𝒂𝒈𝒂 asks if they are just standing around, and Astrid says that is exactly right. These low-rank adventurers are fools. They think they are strong just because they have a badge, so she has to teach them the harsh reality. Julian and 𝒂𝒈𝒂 were the only ones who acted differently, so she wants to test their abilities. She stops at a clearing and says this is where they will begin. Julian asks what she is planning, but Astrid just tells him to keep his eyes open. And that is where we leave it. Watch her draw her sword and strike that tree with insane power. All right, you and I are jumping straight into a world where power levels mean everything. Seraphina tells Lady Alice it is her turn to strike, leaving the young noblewoman absolutely terrified by the immense pressure of matching a silver rank warrior's legendary power. The silver rank adventurer reminds her that every great knight starts exactly where she is standing right now. The secret is to keep pushing through every failure. Once Alice cleaves that trunk, she will master intermediate blade techniques, so she bravely steps forward to give it her all. She delivers blow after blow, but the bark barely scratches. Even Arthur strikes with his maximum power, only to end up with bruised hands and a tree that will not budge. Seraphina admits it was a decent first attempt, before calling Julian to take the stage next. Alice cheers him on, while Julian realizes this is a rare chance to test the high-level fencing he practiced long ago. He walks toward the tree. Even though it was a borrowed blade, he promises himself that he will not snap the steel in two. Now pay attention, because with one simple swing, Julian unleashes a gale that splits the timber and shatters the earth. He celebrates keeping the sword intact, thinking he held back enough, until he turns around and realizes the shock on their faces. Elena stands frozen in disbelief at the destruction. Julian just asks if something is wrong, since he only followed her simple instructions. Sweating, she claims this is normal, but Alice absolutely refuses to believe her. Seraphina even boasts that she once leveled an entire forest with a single strike back in her prime. Later, the girls move to a jagged ravine, declaring it the perfect training ground for Julian to finally practice magic. Irritated, she asks if he has ever cast a spell before, and Julian admits he is mostly self-taught. Seeing his hesitation, she assumes he is a complete amateur, leaving Julian wondering why she seems so incredibly happy about that. Full of excitement, the senior adventurer decides to show her pupil exactly how a professional handles a powerful spell. She ignites her blade with searing flames, hurls the energy at the rocks, and triggers a massive, roaring explosion. Julian looks bored, but Alice is amazed. Seraphina scoffs that such power is standard for any silver rank knight. Julian admits the spell was impressive for her rank, truly a power on another level. Seraphina tells him he is next, emphasizing that magic is all about vivid imagination. He ponders her words carefully. You saw that too, right? Julian conjures a colossal blade of fire and cleaves a literal mountain in half, sending massive shockwaves through the valley and shattering the entire peak. Alice and Alina watch in horror as giant boulders begin raining down from the sky like a cataclysmic disaster. The girls huddle together in absolute terror, frantically asking Julian how they are supposed to survive this mess. The boy casually casts a mid-tier water spell, erecting a massive ice fortress to shield them from the falling debris. Terrified, she asks who he really is. He simply replies he is a lowly iron rank adventurer, causing the poor girl to faint instantly. Two mysterious figures watch from the shadows. One notes that such godlike skill is expected from the person who took down the legendary subject 928. The hooded figure asks the red demon if he could defeat him, but the beast just laughs at the stupid question. The demon snarls that a superior being like him could never lose to a human. Back at the tavern, Celas asks Julian if he met the instructor, Seraphina. Celas recalls his time in her party, admitting that while she was difficult to handle, her strength was the real deal and her will was unbreakable. Celas continues. He explains she never let fame go to her head, working tirelessly to reach silver rank. Now, she just wants to act like a true veteran for the rookies. A stranger walks into the tavern before Celas can even finish his sentence. The red-haired man demands to know where Julian of Ashbourne is. The other patrons whisper, wondering why a legend is in this dive. Julian stands up to introduce himself, but Celas quickly tells the boy to mind his manners in front of this guest. This was Sir Roland of Biscotti, the famous Roland the Iron Mass, and one of the few elite gold rank adventurers in existence. Roland waves off the formalities, while Celas mentions it has been a long time since they last shared a drink. Sitting down, Roland remarks that Julian is exactly as described, young, calm, and seemingly completely without any fear. Then he asks for a massive favor. He needs Julian to join a gold rank mission to slay a prehistoric evil dragon. Celas is stunned while Julian stays confused. The veteran tells Roland to stop joking, since Julian is officially just an iron rank rookie despite his hidden talent. Roland is dead serious. Meeting the boy today proves he has the aura of a gold rank warrior, even though he turned down a promotion to silver recently. But you and I know he is more than average. Arthur asks what kind of beast this dark worm truly was. And Roland explains it is a nightmare capable of destroying an entire kingdom in a heartbeat. A few days ago it appeared in the Westmark Highlands, and you and I are about to see if this low-tier party can survive it. Roland asks if Arthur is willing to lend his strength, until a sharp-eared noblewoman suddenly speaks up in furious protest. An elf sneers that including an unknown commoner in their elite hunting party is absolute madness. She scolds Roland, calling it a disgrace to seek an F-rank adventurer's help for a mission of this caliber. Arthur asks who the girl is, and she proudly reveals she is Lady Clara Dowell, the third-ranked B-class mage in the kingdom. The dark elf claims she's heard of Arthur and suspects he's only using dirty tricks to climb the ranks. She refuses to acknowledge his skill, insisting a peasant could never be allowed to join her prestigious group. Seeing she is joining the mission, Arthur points out he hasn't even agreed to go yet, but Roland quickly tells Clara to cool it. The knight reminds her that rank is not everything, and she should stop judging every adventurer based on their appearance. Pay close attention here. Clara is about to make a massive mistake by challenging our main character to a little test of skill. Controlling a magical fork, the elf claims this is just a bit of light entertainment to liven up the evening. And if he can somehow return the fork she is about to throw, she might actually respect his abilities. Clara states that if Arthur fails, she won't let him join, mockingly calling him nothing but a lowly potato digger from the fields. Arthur stands up, ready to play along, as the two adventurers lock eyes and prepare for their sudden duel. Roland looks annoyed by the scene, but the elf prepares her spell and launches the projectile straight at the young man. The fork blurs forward. Arthur realizes she is incredibly fast, truly worthy of her status as a high B-rank mage. Her raw magical power is impressive, but Arthur simply stops the flying fork with a single bare finger, shocking the elf. Arthur turns the fork back toward Clara, calmly asking if she would like to have her object returned to her. Arthur flicks it back, sending the fork whistling past Clara's head to shatter the wall behind her. The terrified elf knows that if that hit her, she would be dead. She realizes the boy didn't just block her magic, he sent it back with even more destructive force. Roland cheers at the display, declaring that the final member of their squad has officially been chosen. Pippin is counting on him, but Arthur just sighs, and you and I know he feels bad for breaking the tavern once again. Sir Roland drives the small carriage down a dusty road, apologizing to the group, because this was the only transport he could find on short notice. Arthur notices that Lady Alice is also joining the party for this mission. And she explains she was the one who recommended him, planning to show him the true power gap between their two ranks. Clara is still fuming, scolding Alice for supporting a mere F-ranker, but Alice snaps back that Clara was the one who lost their little duel. The two of them start bickering. Arthur. Surrounded by elite B-rank and A-rank warriors, Arthur feels completely out of place and wonders if joining this group was truly the right move. Changing the subject, Roland asks if Arthur really owns that slime, and the boy confirms the little creature is his loyal companion. The knight praises the rare taming skill, but Clara just scoffs, insisting that taming a simple slime is completely and utterly useless. Suddenly, the slime jumps on Clara's shoulder. Arthur warns her that the little guy actually likes her, even if she doesn't like him. Arthur senses danger and immediately orders everyone to jump from the carriage, just as a fire blast slams into the group. Everyone leaps to safety, and Clara frantically asks if the dark worm they were hunting has already arrived. Sir Roland explains these are just common C-rank drakes, but Arthur notices something chilling. Every single one of them has been tamed. Roland declares that he and Alice will take the right side, ordering Arthur and Clara to handle the drakes on the left. Arthur suggests a strategy to deal with the airborne enemies, but the arrogant elf refuses to listen to any of his advice. She screams that she won't take orders from a peasant and vows to handle all the creatures herself while conjuring a massive spell. With that, the elf fires her thorn cannon, sending magical homing missiles straight toward the fleeing drakes. She shouts that there is no escape as her magic chases the dragons down with relentless speed. The spell strikes the drakes, freezing them solid and sending them crashing down. Clara brags about how easy it was, while Arthur realizes he might not even need to help. Right then, Alice warns that another enemy is closing in as a B-rank meteor drake appears, making Clara wonder if this is finally their leader. Arthur realizes this one is also tamed, and trust me, you and I are about to see him finish this once and for all. Let's dive into a battle where Lady Alara and Kaelin launch mana bolts at a drake that just shrugs them off. Alara and Kaelin are stunned. Then Alaric gives the command to the slime. The slime leaps high, swallowing the dragon's fire and digesting it instantly. The mages are stunned until Julian suddenly launches himself into the air using the slime as a boost. Commander Roland charges forward with his massive shield, shouting that he is borrowing the slime for a moment. He slams his iron destroyer skill into the massive beast, sending the dragon crashing toward the earth. Roland leaves the finish to Sir Julian, who begins channeling high-level magic straight into his blade. Our hero draws his steel, lunging forward with a strike so precise, it splits the drake right down the middle. Julian praises the slime, while Alara acts unimpressed, and Kaelin mutters it was probably just a lucky shot. Roland points out a new problem. Their horse has been badly injured in the chaos. Alara warns they need to reach the castle by sunset, but it is 2 hours away. Julian considers having the slime transform into a cockatress, but they have too many people. Instead, he approaches the wounded animal and begins channeling his rare holy magic. The group is speechless as they race toward their goal. Kaelin thought this magic was myth, while Alara notices the horse is faster. Julian explains that while healing the beast, he layered on enhancement spells to boost its physical strength. Roland mentions that once they clear those trees, they will finally enter the Great Western Highlands. They ride into the clearing, only to find the entire forest has been burned to a crisp. Scattered corpses of monsters and animals litter the blackened earth. Kaelin and Alara show zero mercy, mockingly insulting the dead creatures as they pass by. Roland ignores their chatter. He senses the magical pressure thickening and warns everyone to stay sharp because the monster must be nearby. Kaelin scoffs, boasting that with their high ranks, no dragon stands a chance against a squad this elite. That's when Julian spots something chilling in the shadows, ancient dragon bones. Alara wonders if that was the legendary drake, and Kaelin hopes it died before they arrived, but Julian realizes it is still very much alive. Now pay attention. Watch as Roland orders the group to prepare just as the fell drake rises. As the beast advances, it lets out a terrifying, bone-chilling roar that completely paralyses every single member of the group where they stand. Julian realizes the roar is a high-level immobilization spell. He is actually impressed, while Roland desperately screams out, wondering what kind of magic just hit them. The pressure is intense, but Julian finds he can still fight through the crushing weight. Suddenly, a figure appears on the peaks, mocking the adventurers of this era for being absolute trash. It is Baron Malphaz, the 230th demon, amused that Sir Julian walked right into his trap. Malphaz tells Julian not to get cocky just because he beat Celas, who was just a low-tier weakling. The demon claims his rank makes him untouchable. He commands the humans to die, and in that instant, the massive drake lunges for the kill. Julian recognizes the intruder is part of the numbers, and is likely here seeking bloody revenge. The dragon's massive jaws snap shut, seemingly crushing the entire group of heroes at once. But Julian is not done yet. He moves like lightning, using his sword to slice clean through the wyvern's claws. He does not stop there, leaping into the air to run up the monster's arm before unleashing a flurry of cuts that shred the dragon's head into tiny pieces. The entire squad is left in total shock. I know what you are thinking, battle over, right? But Malphaz just laughs and asks Julian if he is ready for round 2. Purple energy swirls around the drake as it suddenly revives. Julian barely manages to block its next strike as he realizes the beast has returned. Even after cutting its claws again, the monster just regenerates and keeps coming for his throat. The beast lands a heavy blow, slamming Julian into the dirt. He barely raises his sword to defend himself. Julian realizes that no matter how many times he cuts it, the thing just heals itself instantly. He will run out of stamina at this rate. Realizing the beast is acting like an undead puppet, the young knight begins chanting a powerful, advanced holy spell. The creature writhes in agony. Julian knows undead are weak to light magic, and his past life's mastery is finally paying off. Suddenly, Malphaz vanishes and reappears right behind him. The demon strikes, but Julian parries just in time. Malphaz grins, saying this is finally getting fun and time for the final round. The demon rains down a barrage of heavy punches, forcing our hero to focus entirely on his defense. Julian decides to counterattack. Julian strikes Malphaz with a mana-infused blade. Trust me, you and I are definitely going to want to see what happens next. The demon mocks Julian for being too slow to channel his ether. He strikes at the boy who's wide open. Stick with me. You're about to see Julian pull off an insane move that defies every rule of physics. Lord Roland thinks the beast has massive power. but its huge size makes it sluggish. Suddenly, Morgrim is right there, mocking him for even trying to fight. Morgrim snarls that dodging won't save him forever. He swings again, but the boy slips away to the side. The demon flings boulders at high speed, laughing that Julian got soft after 5 centuries of sleep. He calls Julian a worthless zero now. The boy just spins his blade, blocking the strikes with ease. Grabbing a massive rock, Morgrim says he's waited ages for the day he could kill Julian again. He begs the boy not to disappoint him, hurling the boulder. Julian just leaps back and slices it in half. Landing gracefully, our hero realizes the monster is actually right. Just defending won't end this. It was time to stop relying on his sword and use his real power. He tells Luna to lead the others to safety. The little creature nods and leaps away to obey him. Morgrim charges forward, shouting that Julian shouldn't worry about his friends. He's only interested in taking Julian's head today. Watch closely, we're about to see this beast's new power. Since his defeat 500 years ago, he's forged an unbreakable body. He asks how it feels to be crushed. Julian starts chanting instead. Suddenly, a massive spear of holy fire ignites in his hand, burning the air. Morgrim freezes in terror. Julian was supposed to be a swordsman, not a master of the high divine arts. But Julian just shrugs. He doesn't really remember much from his past life anyway. He launches the divine strike. The demon can do nothing but brace himself and pray for survival. Morgrim screams as the power overwhelms him, blowing him miles back as he fails to stop the impact. As he burns, the creature can't believe he's losing to the same man after 500 years. Julian sheathes his sword as the blast erupts, erasing beast number 203rd from existence. The group is speechless. You saw that too, right? Julian's magic is actually getting even more efficient than before. Roland cheers him on, explaining that the dragon was likely in rank S-level threat. Julian still doubts his own strength. He thinks he only won because he happened to know holy magic. The old lord warns him to keep his divine arts a secret from the rest of the world. Julian asks why, so Roland explains that holy magic is legendary. If word gets out, every kingdom will start a war for Julian. The boy agrees. A quiet life is much better than being a pawn for some greedy king. He then remembers he snatched a souvenir from the dragon before it turned to ash. He pulls out a massive mana stone, wondering how they should split the loot. Roland is floored. He's never seen a high-quality stone of this size in his entire life. He tells Julian to keep it. Even Alara and Kale agree he's the only one who deserves it. But he warns the boy to be careful. That stone could collapse the entire balance of power. Back in the city, Julian worries that his secrets might bring more trouble than they're worth. All he wants is freedom. The next morning, he's woken up by strange noises from Luna. He thinks it's just dawn, until he sees a small girl with blue hair sitting right there. He's completely confused by the stranger. The little girl wakes up and immediately lunges straight into his arms for a hug. He freezes, asking if she is actually Luna. The girl just gives him a happy nod. He realizes the dragon's mana stone must have triggered a sudden evolution into this form. She tries to greet him, but the words come out all wrong. Julian is absolutely impressed by her effort. Right then, she tries to stand on her own feet and fails. Julian catches her before she hits the hard floor. I know what you're thinking. Is this human form a good thing? Even Julian isn't sure if this was right. He strokes the girl's hair, telling her she doesn't need to try so hard to be like him. Julian tells the little slime she has a unique charm. You and I are about to see just how special she is as she joyfully hops right onto his shoulder. Julian tells Pippin they are heading out on a mission today, and the little creature goes wild with joy. Over at the Seekers Guild, our hero starts scanning the board for a worthy new quest to take on. It is all the same boring stuff, goblins and wolves. He figures Pippin is probably sick of eating the same old monsters and doing these repetitive tasks every day. Suddenly, a mysterious stranger shows up calling Julian's name. The guy awkwardly introduces himself as Celas, the 8th-ranked hunter in Class C, claiming to be a rare wandering monster specialist who travels the kingdom in search of glory. Celas then shows off his companion, Twitch, a rank E shadow rat. Julian realizes this guy is a fellow monster tamer, just like him and little Pippin. Celas asks if he is looking for work and suggests they team up for the day, but Julian is not exactly feeling the vibe and politely declines. Celas will not take no for an answer, insisting that the best missions are not even listed on the public board. He explains that private contracts are where the real gold is. Julian is not usually a fan of hiring out. But the board is empty, and if he wants to feed Pippin something special, this might be worth it. They reach an agreement. Julian accepts the proposal, which sends Celas over the moon with excitement for their journey. As they ride a cart through the forest, Celas mentions he thought Julian was just a total rookie. Julian admits he is still learning, and asks Celas if he could show him the ropes of professional taming. Celas agrees, promising to give his new junior some solid, veteran advice on the way. He starts by asking why Julian would ever waste a contract on a basic slime, leaving Julian confused. Celas explains that while slimes come in many forms, common blue ones are the absolute weakest monsters, and nobody in their right mind hires them. He tells Julian to ditch the slime and find something stronger, even offering to help him capture a real monster later on. Looking at his friend, Julian refuses. He says Pippin is perfectly reliable, and he is certain she will be a massive help on the adventure they are starting today. Celas just laughs, saying if he actually trusts a basic slime, he is no monster tamer and should probably just hand over his badge right now. Watch closely here, because just then a massive hawk dives down, snatches Celas in its talons, and drags him screaming into the sky. Julian immediately has Pippin transform into a massive winged beast to fly and rescue Celas. Terribly confused, Celas keeps screaming until Pippin safely drops him back into the wooden cart below them. Shaken up, Celas asks Julian what the hell that was, since slimes are not supposed to transform. Julian just says it is normal for his pet. But Celas thought blue slimes were common. Celas stammers that common monsters cannot do that, while Julian just asks where they are actually heading today. Celas finally reveals their destination is the Wyvern Hollow, a legendary spot tamers call a treasure trove. Their goal is to capture a young dragon sleeping deep within the rocky valley. The tamer starts bragging about rare beasts like krokens from the distant, deep blue eastern seas. He mentions golden birds and rainbow slimes, which are incredibly rare in this whole world. Celas claims that by capturing so many rare monsters, he became known as the legendary wandering hunter. Julian acts truly impressed, saying he is deeply proud to be working alongside such a supposedly amazing and talented veteran monster tamer like Celas. You and I are probably wondering why he is only rank C, and Celas nervously claims true genius is rarely recognized. He explains the dragon is incredibly fierce, but since it is currently mating season, its physical strength has diminished, and they can sell the dragon hatchling for a massive fortune. Celas reveals that they have finally arrived, and that right there is the legendary Wyvern Hollow. To find the dragon, they first have to cross that dangerous cliff. He tosses Twitch, declaring it is time for the mouse to shine. The rat reaches the other side and ties a rope to a rock so Celas can cross safely. He thanks his little pet. Julian tells Pippin that was great teamwork, and they need to keep up the pace. He notices the wind is picking up, making a flight transformation dangerous, so Julian comes up with a much cleverer idea instead. Celas reaches the other side and calls out for his partner, only to see Julian using Pippin as a makeshift parachute to glide smoothly across the windy gap. Julian lands softly and thanks Pippin, while Celas can only stare, admitting that the slime is truly bizarre. Looking ahead, Celas spots some high-ranking monsters. So what do you and I take from this? Brute force is not always the smartest way to tame these beasts. Stick with me. We are about to see if a tamer can really win with just friendly communication. Isaac thinks he understands, remembering the bit of jerky he gave his pet slime, Lime. Dutch pulls out a strange ball and claims that with his homemade dumplings, he can charm any monster, leaving Isaac absolutely startled. Julian asks if that is even edible, while mentioning that anyone who eats it would definitely end up sick. Dutch tosses it toward the monsters, begging for friendship. Instead, the beasts sniff it and charge, looking even angrier than before. The tamer panics, but our main character steps forward, blocking the incoming strikes with his reliable blade. Then, he gives the monsters a terrifying glare, instantly striking fear into the hearts of the creatures. Suddenly, he tosses Lime toward the kobolds, and the little monster splits into 3 separate pieces. The slimes leap at the beasts, sticking to their noses and actually starting a conversation that the monsters respond to. Isaac and the kobolds share a quick chat, and he explains to Dutch that a dragon kicked them out of their home. Dutch is speechless, so he and Julian move forward while Lime protects the old man from every possible danger. Pay attention here, because we are about to see if this old-timer actually has any real skills. Laughing, Dutch announces it is time to reveal his ultimate trump card. He bites his finger and tells Julian to watch closely, as this is his top secret weapon. The man draws a blood symbol on the ground, and suddenly a massive, high-rank sea golem appears before them. The golem tries to move the boulder blocking the lair, but Dutch realizes it just does not have enough power. Julian tells Dutch to move back, then unleashes a powerful energy beam that slices the massive rock in 2. Dutch is shocked that a tamer can use sword skills and wonders if Julian is really just rank F. The system flashes a notice, and Julian realizes his past lives are the reason he acquires skills so easily. He still thinks of himself as a normal rank F adventurer living out his 3rd life. He just tells Dutch that he is a simple, low-level rank F adventurer. I know what you are thinking. No way he is just rank F. Stick with me as we see who is in that cave. Julian grips his sword, warning the group that someone is approaching, while Dutch tries to see who it is. Suddenly, Alyssa appears, declaring that she will not let any dragon hunters pass her guard. She realizes it is Julian and feels relieved, but Dutch is absolutely terrified to recognize the girl. Julian asks what she is doing here, and she reveals the guild sent her to protect the dragon from greed. She explains that every single part of a dragon is worth a massive fortune. To prevent overhunting, the guild has banned anyone from hunting them without official permission. She blocked the entrance to keep out intruders, but Julian explains he is only there to collect a dragon egg. Alyssa says the guild never reported this to her, but then she spots Dutch trying to sneak away. Alyssa asks Isaac if that man tricked him, warning that there are plenty of suspicious dragon hunters like Dutch out there. Irritated, the man pulls out his license. He claims to be a legitimate adventurer until Alyssa recognizes him as Dutch the Braggart. Julian is confused, but Alyssa explains Dutch is a troublemaker who lied his way to rank C by exploiting novices. Isaac is stunned and asks if all those heroic stories were just lies, while the old man drops to his knees. He apologizes for the deception, swearing he has turned over a new leaf and asking Julian to believe him. Alyssa tells him to ignore the man, but Julian reveals that Dutch actually taught him some useful things. He does not think the man is evil, but suddenly both warriors notice a new threat nearby. Julian draws his blade now. They are surrounded by dozens of hunters hiding in the rocks. Are these the greedy ones Alyssa mentioned? Alyssa tells Julian to handle the left side, but asks him not to use fire magic near the dragon lair. Isaac wants to join the fight, but the rough terrain makes it nearly impossible for him to move. Julian thinks of a better way to handle this ambush. The young man bites his thumb and lets the blood drip onto the ground, telling his summons to handle the rest. The kobolds charge forward, and seeing this magic, Alyssa and Dutch are terrified. Trust me, you and I need to see what is next. Stick with me, you and I are about to see Alistair summon beasts that absolutely wreck these dragon-thieving knights, one by one, in a total slaughter. Alistair realizes something's changed. His kobolds are hitting way harder than they ever did before. Alicia is terrified, saying kobolds should be rank D. But these hit like a rank B. Turns out Alistair's tamer influence makes his monsters way stronger. Now they're wondering, just how strong is this guy? The hunters bolt, but as they retreat, Alicia spots a familiar crest on one of their cloaks. Alistair asks if she's okay, but she just brushes it off for now. Alicia warns they'll be back for the dragon. To protect it, she's heading deep into the cave. She asks Alistair for backup, and Barnaby decides to tag along too. She warns Barnaby not to provoke the dragon. A rank C would be toast. He quickly agrees. The group pushes deeper until they find it, a massive, majestic rank B white dragon. Barnaby spots the dragon eggs and charges ahead, blinded by the thought of gold. He claims running would ruin his reputation as a hunter. He's grabbing that treasure and leaving. Watch closely, because this is where the dragon's crushing presence finally hits him. Barnaby falls, paralyzed by a bloodlust more intense than anything Alistair has felt since his reincarnation in this world. It is the strongest aura he has ever encountered. Barnaby begs Alistair to help him snatch the egg and run. Instead, our protagonist walks right up to the massive beast's face. He apologizes to Barnaby, refusing to help him steal. He finally realizes that even for monsters, their children are far more important than their own lives, and he won't be part of it. Their children matter more than their very lives. Stealing that egg without permission is just plain wrong. He turns to leave, and the dragon relaxes until something suddenly strikes the beast. The creature wakes up in a sudden fury. Everyone realizes those wretched hunters never actually left after all. The trio charges again, but Alicia and Alistair step up to protect the nest. Suddenly, a new hunter appears, greeting Alicia like they've got some history. He calls it fate, but Alicia recognizes him immediately as the treacherous Thorn. Thorn tries to strike her down, but she skillfully wraps his blade with her whip. He mocks her, claiming her sense of justice made her a puppet for the guild's mission to protect the beast. He warns her that her former comrades will be the ones to fail her mission. He even threatens to have her rank revoked forever. She just laughs it off, telling him he's the one out of luck. Thorn is confused until he sees Alistair effortlessly take down all three of the fools who were attacking. You and I both know Thorn's in trouble. He's wondering how a simple tamer just wiped out all his men in a single, effortless instant. The dragon's massive wing slams into Alistair. He manages to block it, but the beast is lost in a blind rage and keeps charging at him with everything it has left. Alistair is confused. Thorn reveals he used a monster stimulant to drive it mad. He tries to run, hoping the dragon will crush everyone left behind in the chaos of its fury. The dragon stomps down on Alistair, burying him in a massive cloud of dust. The others panic while Thorn cheers, until Alistair calmly catches the dragon's massive paw. Thorn is absolutely terrified. Who in their right mind catches a dragon's strike with their bare hands? Alistair connects with the beast's mind, telling it there's nothing left to fear. The massive dragon finally calms down, choosing to trust the young man's gentle and steady voice. A system notification pops up, advanced taming skill acquired. While petting his new companion, Alistair realizes the dragon was simply terrified, and that stimulant drug just made the fear worse. Thorn can't understand how a lowly rank F tamed a dragon. Alistair looks at the creature and realizes it is filled with absolute hatred for that wicked hunter. Alistair smiles back at the beast and tells her the rest of the fight is up to her. Alistair uses his magic to awaken the dragon's true hidden potential. Now glowing with a massive golden aura, the creature charges straight for the terrified Thorn with incredible power. She snaps him up in her jaws and flings him far out of the cave. Trust me, you and I just witnessed Alistair turning a legendary beast into his own personal servant. It's a moment Barnaby will never truly recover from. All right, stick with me. You and I are about to see Alaric get the reward he deserves from Lady Alara. He questions if she is right, But Alara confirms he saved the dragon and dealt Gareth some serious justice. Our hero wonders about their history, and Alara admits they were actually brothers in arms back in their Tier 3 days. They were rivals racing for Tier 2, but after Alara won, Gareth lost his way and spiraled into a life of crime. In the end, his license was stripped away, and he was banished from the Iron Rose. And after saying this, she declares that Gareth was a complete idiot. Lady Alara asks Alaric if he knows where the knights who fall into darkness eventually end up. She explains it is the Underguild, a dark organization for criminals. The girl also mentions that Alaric is incredibly strong and kind. But she says looking at him is like watching a newborn baby. He gets deceived by all kinds of people, knows nothing about the world, and his mindset is still stuck at Tier 6. If the boy continues on his own, he will end up just like Gareth did. Our hero thinks that was some seriously harsh criticism. But Alara was right. It has only been half a year since he was reborn into this fantasy world. She schedules another session for next week, insisting he participates so she can help him train his mind and spirit. Now watch this. Training begins as Lady Alara addresses the gathered fools, while the surrounding veteran adventurers just stand in total silence. She asks if they are ready to start, but Arabelle interrupts with a very grim observation. Only 5 recruits are left. Just a few weeks ago there were 10, but the girl reveals the rest have simply vanished. In just 1 month, 3 died in the field and 2 handed back their badges in total fear. Arabelle is shocked, but Finn notes that having half the rookies survive for a month is actually good. Seeing the danger, Alaric realizes you can never drop your guard in this world, even after becoming a knight. The trainer warns that this life is harder than they thought, and orders the 5 of them to stay vigilant. Then she declares they will begin, and today's legendary training is actually just collecting the city's garbage. In the streets, the 5 adventurers start picking up trash, and 2 of them immediately start losing their minds. They hate this, but Alaric remembers Alara saying he lacked something critical. This training was meant to help him find it. He starts working incredibly fast. Alaric doesn't want to fall into evil like Gareth, but since he doesn't know how to stop it, he'll just follow orders. Arabelle is impressed by his focus, while Alaric realizes he never noticed how much filth was hidden in these streets. A passing child asks his mother what he is doing, and Alaric quickly explains he is just cleaning the city. The boy asks why he is doing this, and Alaric reveals it is adventurer training, which excites him. The kid thinks this is incredibly cool, and decides he wants to help the night out. Arabelle steps in, asking the little guy if he wants to help clean the city with them. She starts cleaning with the excited child. Alaric thinks the more hands the better if they want to finish this quickly. The people around are stunned by Alaric's speed. Everyone is impressed by how hard he is working for them. Watch this. You and I see something amazing as the citizens help Alaric clean. Alaric is confused by the sudden crowd, but Alara appears, telling him that things are going exactly as planned. He mentions how strange it is that everyone is helping just because they were picking up some trash. Alara explains that his sincere actions touched their hearts. Gareth had talent but chose evil, and that is where he failed. If you only care about your own gain and ignore others, you will eventually pay a heavy price. But if you act with true dedication, people will naturally gather around you to offer their support. When you start to stray, those companions will bring you back. She truly hoped he would understand that lesson. And our hero finally gets it. He only made it this far because of all the people he has met. The boy helping Arabelle runs toward a corner, saying the trash-collecting knight is here to save the day, until he slams into someone. A local bully snarls at the annoying brat who bumped into him, telling the kid to watch his step. The thug mocks the boy for trying to act like a knight, while dreaming of being a Tier 6 garbage collector. He tosses a cigarette on the ground, telling the child that he will be picking up trash forever. And trust me, you and I are going to love this. Alaric steps up and tells the jerk he dropped something. Julian tells them to bin the rubbish, but stick with me. because you and I are about to watch these thugs regret everything." The bald brute sneers that a tier 6 peasant should be grateful for the work, since cleaning up filth is all his kind is good for. The mohawked thug lunges at Julian. He calls him a low-born brat, snarling at him to fetch the discarded smoke himself. Julian ducks the swing, catches the smoke, uses a spark of fire magic to relight it, and flicks it right in the bully's face. To conclude the duel, he blasts both idiots straight into the bin with wind magic. Julian demands they learn to respect the laws of the land, forcing them to apologize. A nearby boy watches with wide eyes, amazed at how cool these high-tier knights really are. Night descends upon the deep woods as hours slip by. Inside a gloom-filled cavern, Alaric begs for his life, promising the hooded figure he will secure the dragon's heart immediately if his life is spared. The desperate man even swears he will personally slay the cursed Julian Vance for crossing his path. Now pay attention here. The hooded figure gives Alaric one final chance, ordering him to ensure that Julian Vance is killed once and for all. Right then, Alaric begins a horrific demonic transformation, twisting into a monster before our very eyes. The hooded shadow mutters that he never expected to track Julian down this quickly. Back at the capital, Lord Rossington summons Julian, who wonders why he is being called in so urgently. Rossington reveals a high-tier hunt, a lethal mission to slay the legendary Ogre King. He explains that a massive ogre recently appeared in Blackwood Hamlet, terrorizing the helpless villagers. This beast is far more violent than normal. A tier 1 knight from the next town tried to slay it, but ended up utterly crushed. Rossington confirms it is a superior variant, the dreaded Ogre King itself. Normally, the Lord would handle it, but pressing matters in the kingdom keep him away. The task falls to Julian. Since he is the legendary dragon slayer who saved the realm, the guild gave special permission for him to take this deadly contract. Julian hesitates, sensing another messy disaster, but he realizes he has little choice. Julian agrees, figuring this monster will be a perfect feast for Lime. Soon, he reaches the village of Blackwood Hamlet in the woods. The village blends perfectly with nature. Suddenly, Julian spots someone familiar and realizes it is Lady Alinar. Alinar asks why he is here, and Julian explains he is on a hunt for the Ogre King. He asks if she is joining the hunt, but she explains that she is actually just returned to her birthplace, as Blackwood Hamlet is her childhood home. Alinar admits she couldn't officially accept the mission herself, but she refuses to sit idly by while her own childhood home is in such grave danger. She says Julian's presence brings her peace, but suddenly, a sharp object flies out and hits him. Julian wonders what just struck him, while Alinar instantly recognizes exactly who threw that enchanted thorn. Right then, Hildegard snaps that they don't need a fragile outsider like Julian. You and I saw that coming, right? Alinar begs her grandmother to stop. Recognizing the old woman, the girl asks what she's doing out here and ushers her inside. Heading upstairs, Alinar warns Julian that her family is far from ordinary, so he should prepare himself. Inside the manor, Hildegard apologizes, admitting she is impressed he managed to block her enchanted thorn. The matriarch asks if Julian is Alinar's suitor, making the poor girl spiral into a panicked denial. Julian feels slightly insulted by her judgment, but Alinar defends his character, making Hildegard chuckle as she had already suspected the truth. The matriarch guesses Alinar returned because she saw the secret mission scroll that was sent out to the neighboring towns. Hildegard warns that even if it is to save the village, completing this hunt is impossible. She knows the ancient legend of the Oni god is far more than just a campfire story. Hearing this, Julian is left completely confused. 3 years ago, an ogre appeared nearby. Many knights challenged the beast, but none stood a single chance against its raw power. Yet the beast never attacked. They called it a god and chose to coexist, fearing that inexperienced knights would only irritate it further. Meddling would only make things worse, so Alinar shouldn't do anything reckless. Alinar insists it is fine since Julian is handling the hunt. At that, the old woman stands up. She notices Julian's aura is far different from ordinary men, exactly what she would expect from the partner her granddaughter chose. Trust me, you and I are about to see if Julian can survive this old lady's deadly challenge. All right, you and I are about to see if Alistair can prove his worth by hunting 10 great stag horns before the sun sets. A short while later, we find the two of them trekking deep into the dense woods. Annette asks about the child trailing them, revealing a young beastkin named Samuel. Alistair assumes they are related, but Annette points out that the young boy does not look like her at all. Annette explains their village is a sanctuary where orphans from nearby lands find a home, creating a unique family of outcasts and survivors in the wild. Both she and Samuel were once forest foundlings. Lady Hilda raised them as her own kin, which is why Annette is willing to risk everything to protect their small mountain community from any outside threat. Samuel confronts Alistair, claiming he has no idea how he befriended Felicity, and the stubborn boy refuses to acknowledge the knight's strength. The young beastkin insists this task is for his grandmother, and he will be the one judging Alistair's power today. Annette tells Samuel to show some respect, but he mocks her, saying her taste in men is terrible if she likes him. Alistair pulls Felicity away, ignoring the bratty boy, while Samuel fumes with jealousy until all three of them suddenly sense a dark presence nearby. Pay attention here, because they have just been completely surrounded by a pack of feral shadow beasts. Samuel is eager to watch the outsiders fail, but Alistair and Felicity charge forward, shredding through the monsters with such speed that the boy is left speechless. With the beast slain, Alistair turns to Samuel and asks if he is satisfied. The boy scoffs, saying that was easy, but warns of stronger foes ahead, just as a massive, corrupted knight named Angus emerges from the shadows. The hero lunges forward, using his frost arcana to shield the boy from Angus's strike. He shoves Samuel toward Felicity, telling her to get him to safety, while he handles this hulking monstrosity on his own. Angus shatters the ice wall and begins growling Alistair's name with a chilling and hollow voice. The monster strikes again as Alistair dodges, wondering how this cursed creature even knows who he is. Alistair manages to land a devastating slash across the beast's chest. Watching from afar, Samuel admits the young knight might actually be incredible. The boy asks if all city knights are this powerful, but Annette explains Alistair is special, and that is when Angus begins to transform again, returning to a human shape. Angus whispers Alistair's name one last time before falling dead. Our hero realizes he actually knew the man before he became this nightmare. Now, you and I have to wonder, who has the power to turn a brave knight into a mindless troll? Back at the village, Lady Hilda is stunned to see Alistair actually returned with the great stag horns in hand. Samuel tells her about the massive beast they fought, and the old woman remarks that Alistair reminds her of her lost son. 30 years ago, her son was a legendary champion of the realm who vanished while hunting a great evil, never to be seen again by the people of this village. She begs Alistair not to throw his life away like her son did, making him promise to return from his next journey. She hands him an ancient scroll, directing him toward a hidden sanctuary deep past the village borders. There, he must leave a sacred tribute. With the offering ready and Felicity dressed in strange ritual robes, Alistair declares they are prepared for the coming trial. He asks if the outfit is truly necessary now. She explains it is part of the lure, acting as bait while Alistair strikes. He worries for her safety, but she assures him that she is faster than she looks. Confident in her escape plan, she tells him not to worry. She has survived worse things in these dark woods. Suddenly, a massive tremor shakes the earth, and Alistair knows the Ogre King has finally arrived. A colossal titan emerges wielding a massive club, swinging with enough force to level the trees as the dew narrowly dodges away. The Ogre King roars, terrifying Annette, so Alistair calls for his familiar Lime to protect her. The slime expands into a carriage, whisking the girl away as she cheers for Alistair to claim victory. Alistair draws his blade, imbuing it with raw magic as he clashes head-on against the giant's iron-bound club. The monster's raw power sends our hero flying back through the air. He recovers midair, kicking off a tree trunk to launch a counterattack. He blurs through the branches, closing the distance as the ogre tracks him. Alistair leaps onto a massive boulder the creature had just hurled through the sky. The giant smashes the stone to pieces, but Alistair is already gone, appearing on the beast's back to unleash a sword skill. With one clean strike, he severs the monster's massive left arm completely. The beast bellows in agony, but the limb instantly regenerates, reminding Alistair of the immortal dragons he faced before. And trust me, you and I are about to see this get wild. The Ogre King actually starts speaking. All right, you and I are about to see a fallen hero beg Arthur to end his life before he hurts anyone else. Eris stands there, completely stunned. The beast reveals he was once human, twisted into a monster by dark sorcery, and forced to slaughter every brave knight who came to claim his head. Now watch this. He begs for death before his soul vanishes, but suddenly his primal instincts take over and he charges Arthur in a blind rage. Arthur accepts the burden, cleaving the creature's arm off before vaulting high into the sky. Vowing to grant the man's final wish, he dives back down and drives his blade deep into his chest. With his dying breath, the king thanks Arthur, calling him the realm's strongest as his form shifts back into a man. Arthur notices a familiar earring fall, the same one Lady Elenar's missing son used to wear before the war. But before he can process the tragedy, a winged shadow strikes from the darkness. The stranger mocks him, impressed that Arthur could dodge a fatal strike to his vitals with such speed. She introduces herself as Jillian of House Vane, number 66, claiming she's here to reward him for killing her little brother, Cedric. Arthur realizes the dark magic feels identical. Now he understands that the beast he just killed was the boy's own brother. Jillian laughs, explaining the Beast King was her finest masterpiece, a hero who swore to protect his village above all else. She twisted that oath, turning the Guardian into the monster that devoured his own people. Cruel irony at its finest. Dark energy surges in her hand. Jillian snarls that Arthur has mocked their order for too long, and his journey ends right here. She hurls a lance of pure shadows, screaming that he'll finally pay for his sins, but Arthur doesn't even flinch. He blocks the strike, sensing the curse is fueled by the vengeful spirits of every human Jillian turned into a monster. Wait for it. After absorbing the curse, Arthur watches Jillian transform into something truly nightmarish. She cackles, saying this is exactly what she wanted, to see Arthur's true strength before she crushes him into the dirt. Assuming a horrific demonic form, she strikes the ground, flooding the entire forest with a thick, suffocating black fog. She stalks through the mist, mocking him and asking how it feels to be completely paralyzed. Jillian boasts that he's helpless in her void, but in a flash, the boy triggers a reverse curse ability, parrying the strike and tearing her arm away in the process. But she's not done yet. She leaps into the sky, conjuring a massive sphere of ruin to blast Arthur straight into the pits of hell. The hero counters with advanced solar magic, his flames piercing right through her darkness and triggering a massive explosion that levels the surrounding woods. As the demon falls, Arthur looms over her with a cursed spear, reminding her of every innocent life she toyed with and destroyed. Therefore, he declares himself her judge and executioner, unleashing a final strike that punishes her for every single sin. Back at the village, Lady Eleanor is stunned that Arthur actually slayed the beast god. She admits that Felicity was right about his incredible power. The old woman asks Arthur to protect Felicity from now on, and seeing his firm nod. She blushes fiercely, making things a bit awkward until Eris asks to leave. That's when Arthur spots Eleanor's missing jewelry. He reaches into his pouch, telling the grandmother he has something that belongs to her. He explains that the fallen king dropped this, and wherever her son might be now, he's certain the boy fought like a true hero for his home. Recognizing her son's earring, Eleanor breaks down in tears while Arthur quietly departs with Eris by his side. Felicity whispers her thanks for his kindness and for sparing her grandmother the brutal truth about what happened. Arthur asks if she saw the whole fight, and she confirms she was watching from the ridge with the forest spirit. He admits he lied, because the reality was just too cruel for anyone to bear, especially a grieving mother. Felicity tells him she loves gentle lies, saying his choice saved her family's heart. Some secrets are meant to stay buried for the sake of others. Arthur simply hopes she's right as the two of them walk on, their bond deeper than ever before. Later, Arthur wakes up adrift at sea among the wreckage of a ship. A soft voice calls out, relieved he's finally awake. Arthur looks at her face, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu, but he can't quite place her. The stranger explains she's using the last of her mana to speak directly to his soul. She pleads with him to head to the city of Luxford immediately. And that's where we leave it. If he doesn't go, the world is doomed. Trust me, you and I need to see what's next. All right, you and I are about to dive into a story where nightmares turn into a deadly reality. Back at the inn, Alistair wakes up with Pip on his face, wondering what the little slime was up to. Alistair realizes that supposed dream felt far too real, and if the kingdom were truly destined to be destroyed, he would lose his freedom forever, and that is simply not an option. Our hero decides he will not allow it. He needs to investigate this mystery, and Pip agrees. So, they both head to the Adventurer Hall. Inside, Alistair asks the clerk for passage to Luxuria, but she says that due to a sudden emergency, all travel there is strictly forbidden. Alistair knows something big is going down, so he asks if there is any other way to reach the city. Because if he fails, the entire world is toast. Now, pay attention. The clerk says his only chance to get there is by joining a top-secret royal mission. The attendant explains she cannot reveal the classified details yet. But due to the crisis, the king has ordered the royal knights to launch an expedition toward Luxuria. Elite adventurers are joining the quest, but Alistair must first pass a brutal trial by the knights. Even though he is hesitant, he knows it is the only way to save the world. Lady Alina appears, telling Alistair it has been ages and checking if he is doing all right. She asks if he is taking on the Luxuria mission, and he gives her a firm yes. Alina decides to apply too, asking if she can join him on this dangerous journey. Alistair agrees, but Alina mentions the knights bring back old memories, leaving him and Pip a bit confused. At the training grounds, Alistair sees a massive crowd. Alina explains they are all here for the gold, because the reward is absolutely massive. But she warns him, the trial of the royal knights will not be an easy one. Alistair needs to focus. Suddenly, a blonde girl rushes out, shouting "Big Sister" while pulling Alina into a hug. The stranger gushes about how beautiful Alina has become since they last met, squeezing her tight while Alina looks startled. Alistair asks who she is. Alina explains this blonde firecracker is Clara of House Valerius, an old comrade from the knights. Pip looks confused, so Alina mentions that before she became an adventurer. She was a high-ranking knight herself, which explains a lot. Clara looks totally annoyed, though, demanding to know who this strange man is. Alina introduces Alistair as a brave adventurer who has helped her out immensely. Clara claims she is not jealous, but she clearly thinks a skinny guy like him is not fit to stand beside her noble sister. Still, she figures he must have skills, so she asks him what his adventurer rank is. Alistair says rank F. Clara loses her mind, shouting that a bottom-tier loser has no business near Alina. Alina tries to explain his true power. But Clara is convinced he just tricked her sister. She refuses to acknowledge his skills at all. Alina apologizes, explaining that Clara has always been the type to jump to conclusions without thinking. Alistair tells her not to worry. He is officially rank F, and that is fine by him. Suddenly, a knight commands everyone's attention, thanking all the adventurers for gathering here on this day. He introduces himself as Captain Percival, the leader of the knights, and the man in charge of this test. Let's pause here. You and I know survival tests are never easy. Only those who endure 48 hours can join the mission. He tells everyone to follow their assigned knight into the dangerous eastern forest, wishing them luck before they finally head out. Alistair realizes this is the brutal trial that Alina warned him about earlier. If he wants to reach Luxuria, he has to pass. He wonders who his examiner is, and of course, it is Clara, who tells him he has already failed. Deep in the woods, Clara keeps glaring at Alistair with pure rage, making things extremely awkward. He finally asks why the blonde is staring at him like that. She calls him a rank F idiot. She explains this test is meant to weed out people with poor attitudes like his. Clara insists Alina is not the issue, but Alistair is. She claims he has not been kicked out yet only out of pity. If she deems him unfit, he fails. Alistair vows to prove her wrong right as silver wolves attack. The examiner calls them the perfect test. Alistair draws his blade, ready to show everyone exactly what a rank F can really do. Alina tells Alistair to stay back while she takes the lead, slicing through multiple wolves in a single beautiful motion. Clara is impressed, but when she turns to mock Alistair, she sees he has already ended 3 wolves in a literal heartbeat. Alina cheers for him, seeing him take them down with a single blow. Clara is stunned. You and I know he is no rank F fighter. All right, you and I are about to see if a rough sword style can take down a kingdom. Rose defends him, saying real knights care about one thing, winning the fight. But Clara warns him that the true trial has only just started. Taking him to the riverbank, Clara declares that a knight's survival depends on one skill, the ability to hunt their own food in the wild. She suddenly fires an arrow into the water, snagging a fish instantly. She challenges Alistair to do the same, proposing a wager where his victory finally earns her respect. She'll finally acknowledge his skills. Rose warns that this won't be easy. Clara's mana control is legendary within the order. The young woman begins rapid-firing arrows, proving her sister's high praise was right. Alistair realizes she is hitting every target with deadly precision. If he tries to match her with a bow, he'll definitely lose. He's still searching for an opening when the system pings. He just unlocked advanced non-elemental magic. Clara just laughs and mocks him. Now pay attention, because Alistair just asked why he should catch them one by one before chanting a strange, new spell. Suddenly, dozens of fish are sucked into a magical vortex, leaving both Rose and Clara absolutely stunned. Then, our protagonist opens a massive portal right in front of him, dumping his entire massive catch onto the shore. He shows off the mountain of fish, leaving Clara speechless. Rose asks if she'll finally accept him now, but the blonde still gives a cold no. Later that night, she explains that surviving the darkness is a knight's biggest hurdle. Monsters hunt after sunset. Clara warns that he must fight through the exhaustion and learn to see through the pitch-black forest to survive. Since Alistair always looks half asleep, she suggests he just nap and let the beasts eat him. The main character agrees that staying awake all night is a pain. He decides he needs more eyes on the ground and summons several kobolds. He orders his monsters to patrol the woods in shifts. Clara is losing her mind, demanding to know who this guy thinks he is. The boy wonders if he should have kept a lower profile. Clara stomps to the campfire, calling his magic pure fraud. Rose just smiles, knowing that while Clara isn't honest with her feelings, she really does have a good heart. Alistair turns to Rose and asks why she ever decided to join the Knights in the first place. Rose explains there was no grand reason. Her family has been a line of noble knights for countless generations. It was only natural for her to follow that path too. Alistair asks why she abandoned the order to become an adventurer, but she dodges the question and heads to bed early to rest for tomorrow. You and I can tell she's hiding something, and Alistair notices that lonely look in her eyes before turning back to Clara. He tells Clara that since his monsters are on guard, she should rest, but she scoffs and reminds him she's the supervisor. Moreover, she admits she doesn't fully trust his abilities yet and will watch her own back. Alistair realizes winning her over will take time. He sits beside her, asking how she and Rose first met. The young woman suddenly looks very uncomfortable. Alistair mentions Rose said they were close, making him curious about their life back at the capital in the royal order. Clara is secretly happy that Rose spoke well of her. She decides to open up, seeing a good chance to share the story of her sister's kindness. While Rose sleeps, Clara begins a special tale from their time training together in the prestigious Order of Knights. Clara explains that, as a young girl, monsters attacked her home and slaughtered her parents right before her eyes. The same beast that destroyed her family lunged to finish her off. But then, the Knights of Luminara arrived and saved her, slaying the beast. In that moment, she vowed to become a knight who could protect the weak just like them. After that, Clara went to an orphanage, training relentlessly until she was finally accepted into the Knight Academy. But the reality, there was nothing like her noble dreams. The academy was dominated by the children of wealthy lords and famous noble houses. It was all about status. Commoners who barely passed were mocked and labeled as the shame group by their highborn peers. An orphan girl like her was seen as an outcast among the elite students. While those bullies were tormenting her, Rose suddenly appeared and stepped in to help. One of the jerks asks who she is, and Rose tells them to be ashamed. She declares that as a member of the Grand's family, her motto is to help the weak and crush the strong. Clara decided then to follow her sister forever. To her, Rose is the one true knight who will always stand tall to protect everyone. Alistair realizes that Rose had always been looking out for him too, and now he finally understands the reason why. Clara snaps that this kindness is exactly why dark guys like him try to exploit her. Trust me, he's definitely not doing that. Clarice warns Arthur that no matter how strong he thinks he is, flailing a sword recklessly won't ever make him a true warrior. She claims poor form makes him unworthy of both her respect and the Order of the Crown. Arthur knows this theory from his old master, but putting it into practice is harder than it looks. Suddenly, 3 outcasts appear, laughing that they have finally cornered the little squire. Clarice asks what they want, and the leader claims they were wrongly rejected by a blind and arrogant order. Calling the knights royal dogs, he decides it is finally time to teach them a lesson. Manifesting an ice blade, Clarice realizes she is just dealing with some bitter, low-life idiot. She scoffs that challenging a true knight of the realm requires far too much courage for him. The thug grins, revealing he never planned on fighting her with a sword at all. Watch closely here. Things turn very ugly as a venomous snake suddenly bites Clarice, leaving her completely paralyzed in the grass. Clarice curses him for being a cowardly rat. Ignoring her insults, he summons a massive cyclops to crush her and satisfy his petty revenge. The knight realizes she is facing a rogue beastmaster, and the situation looks dire. But Arthur steps up once more, summoning his familiar and telling the thug he will handle this business for her. Clarice begs him to stop, insisting this is her burden and nothing to do with him. The beastmaster mocks Arthur, saying a nobody like him has no place in this fight. He rants that highborn knights like Clarice always end up regretting their pride once they kneel before his monsters. The Cyclops swings a massive club, but Arthur stands perfectly still, taking the impact head-on. Arthur catches the blow with his bare hands and calmly begins to analyze the beast. He realizes a magical curse is forcing the creature to obey, causing it immense suffering. The young man decides to cast a powerful curse reversal spell. He tells the Cyclops he is free to choose, and the monster awakens to crush the ones who hurt him. The beast chases the terrified outcasts away, ending the threat instantly. You and I can see Clarice is moved, remembering when she was once protected by a legend. Clarice tries to stand, but collapses as the venom spreads rapidly through her veins. Arthur orders his slime to assist and begins to draw the poison out of her body. He asks how she feels, and Clarice realizes she actually feels better than ever before. Arthur smiles as Clarice wonders why he saved her after she had treated him so poorly. He simply explains that if anything happened to her, Lady Rosalind would be deeply saddened. Living honestly and protecting others is the code he learned during his long adventurer training. Clarice admits it is frustrating to be lectured by a novice, but she accepts the lesson. Arthur passes the trial, and now they must head off together to save Luminara. Rosalind is stunned to learn they became so close while she slept, noting how truly amazing Arthur is. The group finally reaches the cliffside meeting point to prepare for their long journey. Mounted on a great wyvern, Clarice arrives and apologizes for keeping them waiting so long. Arthur asks if they are really flying, and Clarice confirms the kingdom of Luminara is far across the eastern sea. The three of them board the majestic creature and begin their flight toward the distant kingdom. During the trip, Rosalind remarks that she will never tire of such a breathtaking view. Arthur asks if they can go faster, which immediately irritates an already stressed Clarice. She snaps that if he is in a hurry, he should jump off and swim there himself. So he actually jumps. The girls are horrified until a massive shadow looms over them. A rank B black dragon strikes, terrifying the wyvern and sending Rosalind falling toward the ocean. High in the air, Arthur summons the mighty beast he had previously tamed. And that's where we leave it, as his white dragon arrives to save them with a thunderous roar. Stick with me, you are about to see Alaric take down a black dragon like it is nothing. He leaps from his mount, slicing the beast's neck in midair, claiming he is just in a huge hurry. After that, he and Clara soar on the white astral drake, leaving her once again stunned by Alaric's incredible power. Claire wonders who this guy really is, since even veteran Dragon Knight commanders can rarely tame a legendary beast like this. Alaric calls for more speed, and as the white dragon bursts forward, Clara can only marvel at how amazing the creature is. Claire feels a bit jealous, but her focus shifts when she finally spots the coastal city of Luminara on the horizon. Alaric notes how beautiful the seaside city looks, wondering what kind of trouble could be brewing in such a peaceful place. Down at the dragon port, the residents of Luminara panic as they see the massive white beast descending upon them. One of the harbor masters asks if this creature actually belongs to Alaric. Once he gets a nod, the man admits he has never seen a majestic astral drake in his entire life. The young handler apologizes that their stables are too small for such a massive creature, but Alaric just thanks his pet and makes it vanish with a flick of his wrist. While everyone gapes in shock, a jealous Claire rushes him away, reminding him they are on a secret mission to avoid attention. She explains that Luminara is built with ancient waterways that blend perfectly with the ocean, earning its name as the City of Water. While she continues her tour of the city, Alaric stops in his tracks, noticing a statue that looks strangely familiar, causing Clara to wonder what he is doing. She explains it is a tribute to the water priestess, Lady Seraphina, the legendary founder and holy symbol of their entire city. It finally clicks. This girl is the exact same person Alaric has seen in his vivid dreams. Now pay attention, because 10 kilometers away at Lake Elise, a dome of cursed energy has appeared. A demonic figure with horns demands that the captive woman tell him everything she knows about the outside world. Seraphina plays dumb, but the demon, Malachar, knows she used magic to contact someone and tells her to stop pretending. Gripping her chin, Malachar sneers that no one is coming to save her, just as one of his scouts rushes in. The scout reports that a black dragon patrolling the coast was just annihilated by a mysterious and powerful force. Seraphina realizes Alaric has finally arrived, while Malachar begins to piece together exactly who is responsible for the kill. Malachar calmly tells his subordinate he is no longer needed, thanking him for the update with a cold smile. But you and I saw this coming. He destroys his own ally, turning the man into dark fuel while claiming they are all just sacrifices for his magic. In that terrifying moment, he charges his hand with shadows and blasts Seraphina, making the priestess scream out in pure agony. With her unconscious, Malachar vows to erase anyone who interferes, revealing his status as number 4 of the elite Dark Lords. Meanwhile, Claire announces they have arrived at the Silver Shield, the prestigious headquarters for the Knights of Luminara. As they enter, She explains that their order is named after the legendary Silver Guardians who protect the kingdom from harm. Alaric thinks the place is much grander than any guild, as Claire introduces them to the waiting grand Mage Valerius. A bearded old wizard stands before them, warmly welcoming the brave knights back from their long journey. He greets Alara personally, telling her it has been far too long and that he is glad she came. He also praises Claire for her truly exceptional work. While the two girls bow respectfully, Alaric asks loudly if this old man is actually that impressive, which immediately causes the ladies to start arguing with him in a panic. Claire explains he is a top-tier court mage and begs Valerius for forgiveness, but the old wizard simply laughs it off with a calm smile. Examining Alaric, the old mage senses a spirit that is incredibly flexible, powerful. He looks young, but his mastery of both blade and spell is legendary. It feels as if a master swordmaster and great mage were standing here as one. Intrigued, the Lord asks for the name of the adventurer standing before him, and Alaric introduces himself with confidence. Valerius smiles, suggesting that Alaric might be the exact person he has been searching for over all these years. Explaining that he needs warriors who are not bound by common rules, Alaric wonders just how powerful a court mage truly is in this world. But standing this close, he realizes Valerius is the most powerful person he has ever encountered in this world. The mage gets straight to business, asking Alaric to join his knights in investigating a dark singularity threatening the kingdom. He describes the singularity as a corrupted zone, overflowing with ancient and highly dangerous black magic. Just a few days ago, one was detected 10 kilometers east of Luminara near the sacred lake. So you and I are left wondering, can Alaric handle this forbidden zone alone, or is the dark magic too much even for a legend? Stick with me, we're about to see a kingdom desperate for brave adventurers. The council issues a final decree: head to Lake Elise and liberate the city of Silvergate. Eris finally connects the dots. The Holy Maiden's warning about the end of the world is real. To save everything, he has no choice but to step up and stop this disaster. He turns to Marcus and vows to handle the threat, telling the Grand Mage to leave it all to him. The Elder declares they march at dawn, giving our group one final night to rest their weary bones before the grand assault. Back at the Silvergate Inn, Eris relaxes and checks if his pet is hungry, only for his own stomach to roar in protest. Eris realizes he hasn't touched a single bite since the sun rose. Then he remembers Alina's warning. She had business to finish and strictly told him to stay put in the room. But Eris is Eris. He's in a new city, and he figures a little midnight stroll wouldn't hurt anyone, right? He wanders through the winding streets, completely lost in the stunning beauty of the city's moonlit architecture. Suddenly, he spots Alina, and trust me, she's not happy to see him wandering around out here. Eris plays it cool, saying he and his pet were just looking for a snack before asking her the same question. Before she can answer, Sir Barrett struts in, calling her name. Alina's face instantly twists in pure, unadulterated annoyance. The arrogant knight just smirks, claiming he was simply out for some fresh air. He brings up their old engagement, acting all hurt that she's treating her former fiancé so coldly. Alina snaps back. She ended that contract years ago. She tells him to get lost because desperate, clingy men are the furthest thing from attractive. Barrett laughs it off, accusing her of showing off her new boy toy. He claims she'd look way better on his arm than with some clueless peasant. Suddenly, he presses a blade to her throat, sneering that she'll make a fine third wife for his collection. He mocks her as a disgraced knight-turned-failed adventurer. Alina doesn't care about the insults to herself, but she won't let this coward disrespect her friend Eris. He shoves the girl against the cold stone wall. Barrett whispers that she always walked around with such misplaced confidence. Yet he's beaten her every single time. He tells the redhead to accept reality, she's weak, and she needs to learn her damn place. All right, watch this. Eris steps in to put the jerk in his place, but Barrett spins around with a lethal kick aimed right for his head. Eris dodges like a ghost and sweeps the jerk's supporting leg with brutal precision. Barrett barely recovers, realizing this kid is actually one of the new recruits for tomorrow's mission. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut. He smirks, saying he's joining the raid too, so they might as well play nice while they still can. The two of them square off, ready to tear the street apart. But Barrett walks away, laughing that he doesn't waste time bullying weaklings before a major operation. His final warning: if Eris gets in his way tomorrow, he's a dead man. Eris wonders how a guy like that became a knight. Alina admits he's a total trash fire of a human, but his combat skills, those are actually the real deal. Alina suddenly brings up his earlier question, why she left the Holy Knights. That jerk was part of it, but the truth is, Silvergate was her home. Her father was a legendary knight who died in the line of duty. Alone and lost, she just followed the path set for her and joined the order herself. But having her marriage and her entire future decided by some old noble council, it was absolutely suffocating. She just wanted to be free, so she became a wandering adventurer instead. She wonders if her father would be disappointed, but Eris stops her. He says if she's happy now, that's the only thing that counts. Freedom isn't a sin. Alina finally smiles, agreeing with him as they vow to save Silvergate tomorrow. Fast forward to the next morning. A massive army marches toward the horizon. Marcus looks at Eris and says he's counting on him today, leaving Alina totally caught off guard. The Grand Mage announces that Eris is the key to the whole operation. Suddenly, the weight on his shoulders feels a whole lot heavier. Barrett scoffs from the back, shocked that this nobody is their supposed ace. He mutters that the old man's plans have finally gone off the rails. The arrogant jerk insists that he's the real star, while Eris is just some low-level knight who's only good for support. Alina fumes, but Clara warns Eris to stay sharp. Despite his terrible attitude, Barrett is the strongest knight in the kingdom. Clara recalls that during the Great Suppression, when 100 knights vanished, Barrett was the only one who returned. You and I know, in this world, raw strength is the only thing that keeps you breathing. All right, let's dive into a story where a hero's greatest ally becomes his worst nightmare. Sir Julian notes the massive haunted energy is overwhelming, but Lord Alaric mocks him, asking the captain if he is showing his true cowardice. Advancing toward the Purple Rift, the man insists there is no turning back after coming this far. Heading toward the rift, Alaric orders all his men to charge forward. Julian worries Alaric is acting reckless, but Archmage Cedric thinks his boldness is actually fueling their morale. Sir Roland tells Arthur they need to move, and once inside the rift, they find a massive swirl of purple energy that looks just like a black hole. Clarys finds the atmosphere eerie, while Arthur notes the land has turned from fertile soil into a wasteland. Suddenly, shadow imps swarm the knights, slaughtering the soldiers before the order can even react to their strength. 3 imps charge at Arthur, but he slices them into pieces in a single, lightning-fast flash. Archmage Cedric proves he is a powerhouse too, summoning a fire hurricane that incinerates the imps while ordering the survivors to finish off the rest. Alaric watches Cedric with pure jealousy, complaining that the old mage is meddling in a fight he wasn't invited to. But just then, even more possessed monsters begin to crawl out from the shadows. Now pay attention. Arthur realizes the rift's magical force is the source that keeps summoning this massive horde of possessed monsters. One soldier begs to retreat, but Alaric grabs him by the neck, calling him a useless and pathetic coward. Enraged, Alaric hurls the boy away, claiming this is the only proper punishment for questioning his command. The soldier rolls to the edge of a massive pit dug out by giant ants, and we see he is about to fall straight into the nest. Luckily, Cedric casts a levitation spell just in time to save the boy and keep him floating. The man thanks Cedric for the help, but Alaric suddenly strikes from behind, throwing the Archmage directly into the dark hole. Before falling, Cedric demands to know what Alaric is doing, leaving the entire group in absolute shock. Cedric plummets toward the mouth of a massive ant, waiting at the bottom of the deep pit. Alaric bids the old man a cruel farewell, laughing as the mage is seemingly devoured by the beast. Laughing like a total madman, Alaric mocks the court magician for being useless and getting eaten so easily. Claris fires magic arrows while screaming at Alaric, but he effortlessly blocks her attacks with a cold smile. Julian and Roland rush the young noble to stop the madness, but a massive explosion suddenly rips through the air. Alaric begins absorbing the surrounding monsters, unleashing a blast of black power that sends his former allies flying. You saw that right. Roland watches in horror as Alaric transforms into a terrifying, demonic beast before his eyes. Now a half-demon, Alaric feels the dark power surging through him, declaring that a world that does not go his way is nothing but trash. Spreading his black wings, he flies high and charges a spell, vowing to live freely without anyone's rules. The fool fires a sphere of dark energy that slams into the ground, tossing knights into the air. Thick black dust from the blast begins to spread across the battlefield. The magic paralyses the order, and Alaric mocks their weakness, saying that even the thought of once being one of them makes him sick. Right as the villain prepares to execute them all, a green energy blast grazes his cheek, and Arthur steps forward after the strike, saying it is time to settle their score from yesterday. Seeing his rival, the demon grows furious and summons a jagged black sword to his hand. He charges at Arthur, screaming that he warned the knight he would kill him if he got in the way. Arthur draws his blade, easily parrying the strike, while Alaric snarls that just defending won't win this fight. Arthur attempts a counterattack, but Alaric is too fast and instantly blurs behind his back. Arthur spins around to block, causing a massive explosion of energy that sends both warriors crashing back through the dust. Arthur demands to know why a skilled knight would betray them, but Alaric says strength is all that matters. He reveals he slaughtered 100 knights of the order just to be the lone survivor, yet received no recognition. He claims that the only thing worth having is the power to take what he wants, which is why he joined the numbers as 86. The rank is for the strongest chosen, and trust me, you and I are about to see what that power really means. The demon thinks they are alike, but Arthur fires back that he has completely misunderstood the true meaning of freedom. Arthur claims that thinking raw strength allows you to do whatever you want is just a foolish illusion, and ignoring others is not freedom. Stick with me. We are about to learn what true freedom really means. Suddenly, he appears right before Baron Blackwood, ready to unleash a final strike. Arthur states this is the freedom he sought, before launching a massive blue energy blast right at the flying demon. Blackwood admits Arthur is strong, but mocks him for trying to reach a target in midair. But looking up, he sees Arthur flying with wind magic. Before he can react, the hero stabs his blade into the Baron's chest and slams him deep into the hard earth. Crushed and defeated, the Baron groans in agony. With that, every knight is freed from the spell. In his mind, young Richard thanks Arthur for finally liberating him from that monster's control. Lady Alara assumes the idiot is finished for a while, hoping the nightmare is finally over until something shifts with the fallen Baron. The man's body begins to swell up like a balloon, while the fool screams desperately, begging some mysterious master for just one more chance. Now watch this. A dark voice orders him to be quiet before exploding him. Sir Celas emerges from the remains, saying the fool should be honored to serve as a sacrifice for his black magic. The white-haired man greets Arthur like an old friend, making our hero immediately suspicious. Celas releases a wave of black mana, so terrifying it forces everyone nearby to faint from the sheer, crushing pressure. The demon goes to speak, but corrects himself, calling Arthur number 0. Arthur realizes this being has massive power and somehow knows his secret past. He demands to know who this man is. The demon introduces himself as number 4, Celas. He reveals he knows Arthur has been secretly trading telepathic messages with a certain someone behind their backs this whole time. Arthur is stunned, but Celas tells him to stop pretending and begins to unravel the purple magic clouding the area. The magic fades, revealing that this place was actually a lake, and a massive structure appears with a young lady chained inside its walls. The girl recognizes Arthur, and our hero is completely shocked to see her face. Arthur realizes this is the woman who has been haunting his dreams. He feels like they have met before, but his memories are still a total blur. She tries to speak, but Celas activates a cruel spell that makes her scream in pure agony. The demon claims he was too late to save her as she falls into his hands, but Arthur suddenly charges forward with his sword drawn in a rage. You and I both saw that coming, but then unknown black magic stops him cold. Celas explains this is a curse of his own creation, and once caught, there is no way to ever escape. Arthur tries to reverse the curse, but the power won't fade. He is completely paralyzed as Celas mocks him, saying the old Arthur would have easily broken such a simple binding spell. Moreover, he calls the boys' fall anticlimactic and boring, but suddenly, a massive pillar of roaring fire erupts behind the demon. Commander Marcus appears, more muscular and alive than ever, vowing to help Arthur. Our hero is shocked as the commander charges at Celas. He shouts that he will make the demon pay for toys with his knights' lives, before launching a devastating fire fist. Number 4 brushes the magic aside, laughing that a mere human would actually dare to interfere in his battle. But Marcus is relentless. The old knight tries another move, but Celas instantly shuts him down with a brutal strike to the neck. Celas declares that if Marcus had only trained like a demon for a century, he might have been strong enough to finally reach a double-digit power ranking. Before passing out, Marcus leaves the rest to Arthur, who has finally used his curse reversal to break free. Celas calls out for number 0 again, noting the distraction allowed him to weaken the curse and escape. Arthur summons his flame power and fires at Celas, who walks right through it, calling the attack absolutely pathetic. The demon strikes Arthur, sending him flying, and before he can even recover, Celas lunges at him with his massive wings. Celas demands Arthur take this seriously, asking what happened to the man once feared as the greatest magical swordsman in all of history. The hero tries fighting back, but Celas knocks the sword away and mocks him. He uses his wings to blast Arthur with black energy, dragging him down into the very depths of the dark lake. Sinking into the dark, the hero realizes he has no way to win, even at full strength, until a voice calls out his name. Arthur wonders who it is until a vision of Clara appears, begging him to remember that he was once the hero who saved the world. Trust me, you and I just learned she is Lady Clara. Stick with me. You and I are diving into a tale where a hero finally finds his past. Alaric realizes Lady Clara was his most loyal knight back when he ruled as the Dark Sovereign. She leans in, whispering that while he lost his memories, she kept theirs locked in her heart. She begs the young knight to trust her. If he reclaims his true power, he can win, and suddenly Alaric awakens the triple S rank hero legacy. High above the Silver Lake, the villainous Lord Seraph descends toward the captive Clara. He sneers, telling her that her only hope is rotting at the bottom of these dark waters. She screams that Alaric will return, but Seraph just laughs, crushing her with a wave of agony. The apostle mocks her, claiming that even if the boy lives, he is nowhere near a god level. Tired of her defiance, the demon decides it is time to end her life once and for all. But watch this. The surface of the lake explodes as a familiar figure rises from the dark depths. In a blur of pure silver speed, Alaric shatters the heavy iron chains binding his friend. Wrapped in a blinding gold aura, he tells her to rest. He is finishing this right now. His power level just tripled, and even the arrogant Seraph is starting to look impressed. Alaric teleports behind him in a heartbeat, forcing the apostle to barely block a lethal strike. The boy blade is a whirlwind, forcing Seraph to retreat as he senses something terrifyingly different. Alaric appears again, swinging a sword wreathed in the fires of a forgotten kingdom. The collision rocks the world, forcing Seraph to finally unleash his most forbidden dark sorcery. Hundreds of black spears manifest in the air, aimed directly at Alaric Beating Heart. But he does not even flinch, summoning a massive fire dragon that incinerates the darkness instantly. He charges through the flames, burying his blade deep into the demon lord chest. Lord Seraph simply smiles as he recognizes that legendary sword technique from the ancient dark sovereign before he fades into nothingness, affirming his immense power. But here is the catch. The monster he just killed was a shadow clone. The real battle is yet to come, and a mysterious red talisman drops where the demon stood. Alaric picks it up, realizing it is a relic that creates a duplicate with half the user mana. As the item vanishes, he realizes his enemy was not even fighting with his full strength. You and I can see the pure relief on Alara's face as she finally rushes to his side. Alaric is still confused. He remembers her as his comrade from 1,000 years ago. She was human then, so there is no way she should still be standing here today. Then he looks closer and realizes she has evolved into a powerful spirit of the world. She explains that her soul was reborn as the 11th incarnation of the great water spirit. While Alaric used a forbidden stone to return, Alara's rebirth was a gift from the world. However, she tells him to listen closely because what she has to say changes everything. The apostles have begun their move, hunting down the spirits to steal their divine essence. These spirits guard the 5 primal magics: fire, water, wind, corruption, and the sacred light. They keep the world mana in check, but that balance has been rotting for centuries. The apostles are harvesting spirit magic to create twisted monsters and forbidden black spells. Nobody knows their plan, but if the spirits fall, the world will burn. Suddenly, Alaric's strange dreams make sense. He was seeing the end of the world. Alara points him toward his next mission, finding the fire priestess, Lady Seraphina. She is the next target on the apostles' list, a secret she learned while she was imprisoned. Alaric recognizes that name, another echo from his life as the Dark Sovereign. It is clear he shared a deep bond with Seraphina in the Age of Legends. So will Alaric choose peace or pick up his sword? Trust me, you and I are about to find out. All right, stick with me. Julian is about to show everyone that he'll crush anyone in his way with pure, overwhelming strength. Seraphina lets out a soft laugh, noting how Julian has finally started living for himself instead of just playing the martyr for everyone else. Julian reflects on his past lives, realizing he was always bound by duty and forced into a lifestyle of endless suffering. First, he was the Dread Lord. In his second life, he joined the elite ranks as a holy sentinel, protecting the entire world from the dark shadows. No matter how hard he fought, he was never rewarded and grew tired of carrying those heavy burdens alone. Lady Isolde warns that Julian's companions will wake soon, so they must restore the area to its proper state immediately. The priestess begins to channel her power, creating a swirling blue energy and hurling it toward the sky. The energy strikes the dome of the rift, shattering it and purging the demonic power from the land. Everyone begins to stir, and Rosamund wonders where she is, vaguely remembering being trapped inside that terrifying singularity. Seraphina assures them everything is fine, introducing herself as the Water Priestess and stating it is an honor to meet them. Rosamund and her friend are stunned, wondering why the Water Priestess is there, and Claire even asks if she solved the crisis alone. We see Julian carrying Lord Arthur, as he explains the entire incident was resolved thanks to his own efforts. Bastian rushes over, desperately asking if Lord Arthur is all right. Seraphina reveals that the dark agents were repelled by Julian, and though she was captured, he was the one who saved her. The priestess tells Julian it is time to part ways, and when he asks why, she explains the order will hunt her relentlessly. Now pay attention. Julian realizes the order isn't just after her, but the legendary power of all 5 great spirits. The priestess speaks. Before leaving, she makes one last request. She wants the young man to turn his face and close his eyes, and he obeys. She kisses Julian on the cheek, leaving Rosamund and Claire in a state of absolute shock. The girl remarks that Julian must have truly forgotten, revealing that they were actually legendary lovers in their very first past lives. Everyone is caught off guard, while the main character admits he has no memory of that. Shortly after, Julian asks Rosamund if he should have stayed in Lumina, but she questions why he is even asking her. Clearly acting jealous, Rosamund asserts that Julian shouldn't worry, since Seraphina is obviously more important to him than she is. In his mind, Julian thinks that for his past self, yes, Seraphina was a precious friend. However, he replies that now Rosamund is the most important person to him, which makes the girl blush. She asks what that means, but Julian simply says it means exactly what it looks like, making her even more emotional. Let's be real, you and I knew he'd choose the redhead. In this life, Rosamund is simply the one who matters most. Rosamund responds that he is being unfair, but if he says so, she might actually start taking him seriously. Seeing her act strangely, Julian asks if she feels unwell and needs to rest until she quickly denies it. Julian wakes up in a realm of pure flame, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu about this whole burning landscape. Lyra appears behind him, calling his name and saying she wanted to see him once more. Julian thinks he has seen that face before, but just like with Seraphina, the memory remains out of reach. The priestess pleads with Julian to travel to Ignis, the capital of fire, or the entire world will face total destruction. Julian realizes the end of the world is looming again, and this girl must be the fire priestess that Seraphina mentioned earlier. Julian's body begins to be engulfed by the flames, and he feels the heat burning everything. He wakes up in his bed with all his spirit companions sleeping on top of him, wondering what they are doing. He knows the end of the world is approaching once again, and he must stop it to secure his own future freedom. The boy notes that things are getting messy sooner than expected, so he decides to find a mission leading to Ignis. As he walks through the city streets, he notices a massive crowd and some sort of commotion happening nearby. An old man thanks the customers for waiting, announcing that his discount weapon shop is finally open for business today. Julian realizes the shop is packed, and he realizes he hasn't actually maintained his own sword in a long time. Suddenly, Arnett appears, celebrating that she managed to grab the promotional item she had been wanting. Julian asks what is going on, and the girl reveals the shop is incredibly cheap and has been attracting every adventurer in town. So what do you and I make of this? A cheap shop, great service, and a neat shopkeeper named Colin, the reputation is already legendary. Philip asks Alaric if he wants to check it out, since they offer dirt-cheap weapon repairs too. Stick with me here. You are about to see why Alaric chooses loyalty over a cheap bargain for his trusted blade. He turns them down, staying faithful to his trusted personal smith. Alaric walks in and finds Master Hugh shouting at a young girl. She snaps that their talk is over, and he can do whatever he likes, nearly knocking Alaric down as she rushes out the door. We see the girl is actually a young dwarf, who insists she is perfectly fine, before running out into the crowded city neighborhoods. Alaric asks what happened, and Hugh admits he arrived at a bad time, explaining that was his granddaughter Tiana and they fought over the shop. Alaric wants details, so Hugh reveals that a new corporate discount armory is ruining them. Their trade has dried up, leaving them struggling just to survive in the slums. Hugh declares that a true smith pours his soul into every blade, and he refuses to accept these cheap tactics. Now pay attention. The smith warns they are back just as two debt collectors storm in, declaring that today is finally payday. Alaric asks who these thugs are, and the old man admits they are ruthless loan sharks. Hugh tells the hooded figure he will pay next month and orders them to leave at once, but the young man retorts that their patience has officially run thin. One thug sneers that if Master Hugh cannot provide the necessary coin, they will take his granddaughter instead, claiming they have wealthy clients who would love her, and she might even make the forge profitable. The massive, bald brute demands to know where the girl is hiding. Hugh insists Tiana is innocent, but the irritated brute lunges forward to strike the old dwarf. Suddenly, Alaric triggers his dimensional magic, causing gold coins to rain down, declaring this pays the debt and they must leave the shop now. The greedy fools snatch up the gold and flee the building. Hugh apologizes for dragging Alaric into this mess, and for the gold, but he replies it is fine since Hugh always maintained his legendary sword. The smith admits he could not work on the sword due to his debts and fears that at this rate, his shop will crumble. Furthermore, his granddaughter wants to take over the forge and revitalize it since she has the talent, but he feels he alone should sink with his own ship. He says it might be time to surrender, but Alaric tells him it is far too early to quit. The young man admits that, without Hugh's craftsmanship, he never would have survived his many dangerous adventures. Alaric vows that he still needs Hugh's steel, so he will lend his own strength to help rebuild the old man's forge. You and I both know that look. Alaric is sharing a meal with Pippin, and the old dog looks incredibly thoughtful. Pippin explains that the rival shop is using its wealth to sell weapons at impossible prices, crushing every competitor and monopolizing the entire city market. They are even hiring out-of-work dwarves for pennies, practically enslaving them after their own family shops were forced to close down. Alaric finally sees the corruption at play and tells Pippin he must find a way to help Hugh's shop, asking how they can possibly save it. Pippin says there is one way, and that way is the Grand Blacksmith Trials, or as the common folk call it, the Smith Convention. The wolf explains it is a massive festival held every 4 years in the city, where every smith brings their ultimate sword to showcase their legendary skills. The winner is crowned the greatest blacksmith in all the land. Plus, the massive cash prize would easily clear their debts and allow for a major reinvestment in the forge. Alaric is impressed by the plan and praises Pippin, causing the dog to start bragging about his own vast intelligence. But the wolf asks who will actually forge the blade, since Master Hugh has clearly lost his fighting spirit lately. Alaric agrees that Hugh is broken, realizing he can find the materials, but he still needs a master who can actually swing the hammer. Pippin asks if he knows anyone, and after a moment of deep thought, Alaric suddenly remembers a certain talented person. Meanwhile, we see Tiana begging those lone sharks to let her go, but the bald brute tells her not to be difficult while the other claims they have the perfect job for a girl like her. The girl refuses them, stating that she has no need for their gold since she has already found her destiny at the forge. The masked man insists she will earn a fortune through easy work, claiming this is the only way she can truly help her grandfather save his shop. She refuses again, vowing to rebuild the forge with her own smithing skills, which sends the masked thug into a fit of pure rage. And that is where we leave it. The thug orders her to obey, just as Alaric spots the trouble while leaping across the rooftops. Stick with me. You are about to watch our hero Alistair drop in to settle a massive debt with these thugs. The lone shark sneers, warning Alistair that he should have stayed away while he still had the chance. He claims Alistair already interfered once, but this time he is bringing out the heavy hitters. He calls forth their brother, a massive mountain of a man. The masked woman laughs, claiming this giant is a true underworld legend. She boasts he will crush Alistair like a twig. The giant swings a massive axe, but Alistair effortlessly slices through the weapon handle. Moving like lightning, he strikes the giant neck with a heavy elbow, knocking the beast out cold instantly. Everyone is in shock. Alistair tells the thugs he just leveled their muscle, and they better grab their friend and vanish immediately. With a terrifying glare, he orders them never to darken the doorstep of Valen Forge again, and they grab their friend and flee in absolute terror. Our hero turns to Clara, asking if the granddaughter of the great blacksmith Valen is unharmed, and she gratefully thanks him for the rescue. Alistair admits he has actually been searching for her for a long time because he needs to discuss something vital. Clara reveals she is also seeking a warrior of his caliber to join her in the upcoming Grand Forge Trials. She explains she must win by forging the most legendary blade for the trials. But first, she needs his help to gather rare materials from the dangerous Iron Peak mines. To create a masterpiece, she requires legendary ore found only in the heart of the eastern mountains. Since the tunnels are crawling with monsters, she desperately needs a strong bodyguard. She explains her grandfather forbade her from going because it was too dangerous. But she loves his forge and his dedication to every blade. He makes far too much to sit back. She is determined to win the trials no matter what, so she can rebuild the shop and protect her grandfather. Now, pay attention here. Alistair realizes they both need those rare materials to forge the ultimate weapon for their specific goals. He agrees. He pledges his strength to the girl, and after she introduces herself, he finally gives her his own name. Unbeknownst to them, a one-eyed creature watches from the shadows as they depart for the burning capital of Ignes. In the city of Ignes, 𝒐𝒗𝒄𝒂𝒚 reports that Alistair is heading elsewhere, proving Lady Seraphina was wrong about his path. He asks Seraphina what she and the spirits see in him. Since Alistair only fought a mere fragment of his power before, he would not stand a chance against the full version. Seraphina simply mocks the demon for his pure arrogance and lack of true understanding. 𝒐𝒗𝒄𝒂𝒚 says he is looking forward to the result. The villain unleashes dark magic on her, claiming that with his complete form, he and Number 0 will finally prove who truly deserves to be called the Master. Being choked, she believes him. Back in the forest, 𝒆𝒈 says she is counting on him, though Alistair notices she is remarkably tall for a dwarf. She reveals her mother was a dwarf, but her father was human, making her a mixed blood in this world. Pure-blooded dwarves like her grandfather are rare now, but they have finally reached the massive structure of the Iron Peak mines. Alistair feels the air growing warm and notices the vibe is completely different from the icy northern mines he once visited. Let's watch closely now. 𝒆𝒈 warns him to stay alert in these dangerous and monster-filled tunnels. Hearing this, he reveals that he is actually low-ranked. She tells him not to be modest, as dwarves have a natural eye for talent, and she saw his power yesterday. She assumes he is a rank, but his ID shows he is rank F. She is stunned because his skills clearly surpass the bottom rank, but he admits he prefers living on his own terms. She tells him to stay focused. They must walk carefully, but Alistair suddenly notices something and jumps into a nearby mining cart without a second thought. 𝒆𝒈 tries to pull him out, fearing it could be a deadly trap. But she accidentally hits the activation switch, and the cart begins dragging her along as she desperately grips his arm. The two are now hurtling through the dark cave, while 𝒆𝒈 clings on for dear life so she does not fly off. Alistair jokes that they will reach the bottom in no time, but 𝒆𝒈 screams that this is the worst start imaginable. Suddenly, a massive stone creature emerges from the shadows, completely blocking the path of their speeding cart. Seeing the massive stone golem, 𝒆𝒈 realizes her trap theory was right and firmly tells Alistair that she will handle this monster alone. Trust me, you and I are about to see if he lets her fight this monster alone. You and I are about to see 𝒆𝒈 in action. She tells Julian to save his strength. She'll handle this monster herself. She leaps, her hammer's boosters ignite, and she smashes the golem into 1,000 tiny pieces. 𝒆𝒈 is determined. If she wants her grandfather's respect, she has to earn it on her own. Landing right in front of Julian, the knight realizes her hammer uses explosions to amplify her physical power. That's one impressive combat style. Max warns that more golems are closing in. Crushing them while stating the ore they drop isn't even that rare. Arthur realizes the girl has this under control and decides there's no reason for them to step in yet. But pay attention here, something much bigger is waking up. A massive, B-rank golem suddenly towers over the entire group. The mountain of stone lunges forward to crush 𝒆𝒈, but she doesn't even flinch as the fist descends. Julian catches the girl in his arms, using a burst of fire magic to dodge away. She's happy to see her savior, but he notes the real fight starts now. He launches forward, using his momentum to charge the golem and slice through its heavy stone armor with ease. Even with its limbs shattered, the creature refuses to go down, throwing a desperate punch to counter his assault. The golem's fist hits a solid wall. Arthur stepped in, blocking the massive blow with his bare hands using hero memory. Using pure physical enhancement, he flings the golem far away, then applies a powerful buff to grant himself even more godlike strength. He sends the stone monster, hurtling high into the clouds. Julian jumps high, meeting it midair. With one simple, devastating punch, he pierces the core and shreds the entire golem into falling rubble. Alara beams with joy, knowing her instincts about these two were right from the very beginning. Back at the forge, Master Alaric stares in disbelief at the rare mithril ore sitting on his counter. He asks if she stole it from the eastern mines, but she explains she went there with Max. Alara plans to use this ore to forge an incredible sword, win the blacksmith contest, and restart the family shop. Alaric looks defeated, sighing that it's too late. The customers have already abandoned them for good. No matter the quality, he believes cheap mass production always wins because, in the end, it's just about money. Alara is fuming. She tells her grandfather that if he refuses to help, then she'll just forge the legendary sword herself. The old dwarf yells at her to stop being foolish. Mithril is the hardest metal to master. Even veterans struggle with it, and there's no way an apprentice can handle it. But she simply tells him she'll never know for sure, unless she actually tries. Desperate, the girl insists she's his granddaughter, and can do exactly what he does to prove their shop and swords are the best in the land. She grabs the ore and marches straight toward the heat of the forge. Julian asks if Alaric is really going to let her do this. The smith hesitates, admitting she has raw talent, but mithril is too dangerous for her age. To him, Alara is like a piece of rare ore that he's spent years shaping and polishing with love. He's dedicated his life to polishing her into a beautiful blade one day. Finally, Alaric agrees to head into the forge and work alongside her. The two of them begin the grueling task of hammering the mithril into a weapon of legend. Time passes, and you and I can see just how exhausted the old man looks when the young knight returns. Alaric mumbles that he worked through the night to adjust the blade, while Arthur asks if it's finished. The dwarf reveals it's done. Working with mithril for the first time was tough, but he pulled it off. The adjustments were nearly impossible, but he finished it. However, when he opens the weapon case, there's absolutely nothing inside. Panic sets in. He knows he left it right there. There's no way it could just vanish into thin air. Alaric realizes someone stole it, just as his rival shopkeeper strolls in with a smug look on his face. The dwarf snaps at the jerk, but Celas claims he's only here to support his fellow blacksmith. He feigns sympathy, acting shocked that the legendary sword is missing right before the big contest. Alaric sees through the act immediately, demanding to know if this was Celas's dirty work. The man just sneers, telling him not to make accusations without proof. Julian knows this guy is guilty. But without any hard evidence, there's no way to catch him red-handed. If only there was some way to confirm exactly what he's hiding. Right then, the system activates, granting Julian a new magic skill that allows him to read people's minds. Julian's eyes glow as he dives into the shopkeeper's head, watching the man's inner thoughts unfold in real time. So what do you and I discover? That his henchman already has the mithril sword. This guy is in big trouble. All right, let's jump into a story where a fool thinks he can crush Alaric's spirit and toss him aside like common trash. Arthur realizes that Merchant is the villain, so Alaric demands the truth about the mysterious blade strapped to his back. The merchant admits it was a weapon from his discount store, but reveals it was the greatest blade he could ever create, the terrifying demonic sword Dandel. Alaric is stunned by the incredible rank of this demonic blade. The shopkeeper kept it hidden because Alaric had just lost his own masterpiece and might have taken great offense. After telling Alaric to think it over, the shopkeeper says he has final adjustments to make for the royal contest and leaves, just as young Alara wakes up and goes to her grandfather. Arthur reveals that the thief was a subordinate of the man who stole the sword, and he plans to take it back. But Alaric asks for time. The blacksmith explains that even with a mithril blade, they stand zero chance against that demonic sword. It is a complete dead end. You and I can see Arthur understands, and Alaric confirms they must forge a weapon that surpasses all limits to win this. Just as he prepares to name the rare forging material, Clara suddenly cuts him off. The girl asks her grandfather where they can find this metal, determined to fix the situation herself, asking him to leave the heavy lifting to her. Arthur agrees to help, promising that he will do whatever it takes to save the forge. Alaric knew they would say that, admitting he expected to sink alone with his failing shop, but now he feels the tides are finally turning for them. He explains they must find the sacred magical mineral, the only substance capable of forging a blade that surpasses all others. Arthur asks for the location, and Alaric points them toward the fire city of 𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒆𝒅 and the dangerous Hearthstone mine. Alistair recalls his visions of the flare spirit and realizes this new quest is going to be anything but easy for them. Arthur and Clara soar through the clouds on a dragon, and she tells him they have finally arrived. They approach a scorched valley, as Clara points out the capital city of 𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒆𝒅 below. Upon landing, they wander the empty streets while Clara wonders why the entire city feels like a ghost town. Arthur spots a lone stranger approaching and decides to ask him what is happening in this place. The old man asks if Arthur can't see the danger, warning them to flee the city while they still have a fighting chance. He explains that while 𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒆𝒅 once thrived on mining, the Hearthstone mine was consumed by darkness, causing the city's vital magic to slowly wither away to nothing. Basically, 𝒂𝒂𝒊𝒆𝒅 is finished, and Clara notes that without magic, nothing can survive. Crops are failing, and all life is suffering, which is exactly why the kingdom of 𝒂𝒂𝒊𝒆𝒅 is facing total ruin. Let's pause here. Arthur realizes this is just like the crisis in Lumina, meaning they must solve this before mining any ore. The old man realizes these outsiders actually intend to enter the mine. He begs Arthur to reconsider, as the mine is no longer a place where any human can hope to survive. He warns that the guild has blocked all access, and Arthur realizes this is a problem since there are no elite high-rank adventurers around here. Clara starts to argue. Suddenly, a voice rings out claiming an elite is present, as Lady Clara greets old Celas for the first time in ages. Arthur recognizes her as Clara from the Order of the Rose, his former ally from the legendary dragon hunt mission. Clara asks why she is here, and Clara reveals she was sent to investigate the dark energy flowing from the Hearthstone mine. Clara is curious about Arthur's goals, and he admits they are searching for the sacred or hidden deep within the dark mine. Arthur asks if they can join Clara on her mission. Clara agrees, noting that his skills are legendary and his help would be invaluable, but then someone suddenly interrupts them. An elf named Sir Merrick steps forward, refusing to let any unknown strangers join their elite investigation group. Lady Clara tells Merrick to stand down, explaining that while Arthur might officially be rank F, he fights like an elite rank S knight on the battlefield. The arrogant elf scoffs, claiming a rank F could never match him and would only be a burden to the team. He demands they leave immediately, but Arthur insists on entering the mine, challenging Merrick to recognize his true strength through a trial of magical combat. The elf accepts the challenge. He agrees to the duel, telling Arthur to show his worth, and the two warriors prepare to face off in a clearing. Merrick announces they will duel using ice towers, as his people prefer to avoid bloody physical combat. They will use magic to construct massive ice pillars, competing on quality in what is considered a sacred form of dueling. Merrick goes first, freezing the ground to create massive spikes that form an elegant pillar. So what do you and I think? All right, you and I are about to see a supposedly low-rank rookie put a legendary elf to shame. Lord Alaric is unmatched in ice magic, or so they thought. The elf claims the thin mana in this region prevents him from unleashing his true potential as an archmage. Boasting of his rank of power, he mocks Julian, asking if a mere boy could ever replicate such intricate spellwork. Julian admits it looks tough, leaving Lady Chloe and Tia feeling quite anxious. Just as Alaric claims victory, Julian tells everyone to brace themselves, touching the ground as a massive frost wave erupts. Suddenly, the earth beneath them begins to violently shudder. Chloe wonders if the entire world is freezing over, as a colossal ice spire surges upward, lifting them toward the clouds. Now look at Alaric's face. He's speechless. Julian simply apologizes, claiming he's just not very good with delicate magic. The massive spire slides toward the mine. Tia loves the ride, while Chloe realizes Julian always shatters her expectations. Alaric has no choice but to swallow his pride as the group glides toward their dangerous destination. The elf finds it incredibly bizarre that Julian is only rank F despite having enough raw power to lead a royal army. When Julian asks about ranking up, Alaric explains the rules. One must complete 4 successful high-level contracts within a single year. Moreover, this very investigation is actually Chloe's final trial to ascend from rank B to rank A. Alaric confirms his friend finally has the skills of a master adventurer, and he truly wants to see her succeed. Chloe reveals that Master Alaric is her mentor, a strict, reliable scholar she holds in the highest regard. Julian figures the whole ranking system is a massive headache, thinking it has absolutely nothing to do with him anyway. Alaric interrupts, noting they've reached the Buster Mines, where Julian senses a dark, suffocating pressure that reminds him of a hellish lantern's glow. Tia hates the foul magical stench, while Alaric warns that a rift is forming, potentially making this a rank S threat. He offers Chloe a chance to turn back. Chloe refuses, declaring that they have come much too far to run away from a little danger now. Julian agrees, determined to face whatever rift or monster stands in their way. They need that sacred ore no matter what the cost, so Alaric tells everyone to stay sharp and move forward. Deep within the tunnels, a shadow golem lunges from the dark, but Chloe and Alaric counter with a blast of elemental fury. While the beast is distracted by the magic, Tia slams her war hammer down, but the strike does nothing. Alaric explains that the dark magic has given the golem extreme physical resistance. Suddenly, Julian steps forward and raises his hand. A blinding emerald flash erupts from his palm, striking the golem with an explosion that sends shockwaves through the entire mine. Julian passes his stunned allies, noting that holy magic is the perfect counter for these dark monsters. He tells the team to keep them busy, while he focuses on purifying every shadow in sight. I know what you're thinking. Where did this kid learn high-tier priest spells? Alaric is baffled, but Chloe's just as confused as he is. The two elves combine their powers, freezing another golem solid with a wave of absolute zero energy. Julian shatters it with his light magic. He praises their coordination, and Chloe agrees, though she warns they must keep moving forward. But suddenly, Tia stops and tells everyone to stay on guard. The young girl senses a putrid smell, and in that moment, the entire group feels a terrifying presence looming. High above, jagged rocks begin swirling together, drawn in by a vortex of pure dark energy. A massive shadow master golem crashes down, and Julian immediately realizes this beast is on a whole different level. Julian barely blocks the first strike, as the elves try to freeze the monster's legs. The beast is too fast, dodging their spells easily. Julian trades blows with the monster for several minutes, but his purification magic unexpectedly fails to connect. The golem seizes the opening, delivering a punch that sends Julian crashing into the stone floor. It grabs him by the throat and tosses him aside. Julian realizes his standard holy spells aren't enough to break this thing's defense. A system notification rings out. Julian has unlocked high-tier holy arts. He realizes his constant spell spamming finally forced an evolution. Kicking off the wall, Julian decides it's time for a little experiment and launches himself into the air. The golem pursues him upward. Trust me, this golem is about to regret ever touching him. Julian summons a divine spear and drives it through the monster's heart. You and I are jumping into the middle of a blinding sky explosion. Chloe can only stare in wonder, as Tia admits the flash completely took out her vision. Once the light fades, Yuri stands before them holding the precious holy ore from the golem. Tia is absolutely ecstatic over Yuri's success, while Masty tells Chloe that he could not possibly be more surprised. Suddenly, the floor beneath their feet vanishes, sending all four plunging down into a dark abyss. The entire roof is collapsing now, and Chloe wonders if this is some kind of magic. As they fall, Chloe notices the mist thickening, and Masty realizes they are nearing the singularity's core. Tia tells everyone to look down as she spots a light, and soon they plummet through into a chamber filled with fire. Serial is in total shock that his black magic creation was taken down so damn easily. The demon takes his true form, telling Yuri it is a pleasure to meet him, while our hero stares him down. Masty and Chloe are terrified, but Yuri tells Lime he is counting on his little monster. Now pay attention, because Lime suddenly expands to save them all just before Yuri lunges forward to strike his deadly opponent. Their attacks collide, and Yuri realizes instantly that Serial's true power is on a completely different level than their last fight. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to him. Exhausted, Flare looks up at him with total relief, while Yuri realizes he feels that same strange connection to her from before. Yuri flashes back to his talks with Aqua about the danger of spirits, knowing he must rescue Flare from Serial before it is too late. Serial instantly teleports right behind him. He mocks the hero for being distracted, but before the demon can land a hit, Chloe and Masty work together to summon ice crystals between them, swearing to help Yuri with every ounce of power they have. Annoyed, Serial spits out that they are just noisy insects. Tia watches in absolute awe as her friends hold their ground against a monster that makes every single golem look like a toy. Chloe builds an ice ramp leading straight toward the flying demon lord. Yuri charges up, and even though Serial blocks with bare hands, an energy burst sends him flying back. The demon is genuinely irritated now, admitting their teamwork is actually pretty clever for mere humans. But Serial has had enough. He unleashes a cruel purple ability that paralyses the group before throwing them away like they were trash. Suspended in midair. I know what you're thinking. Are these fragile humans really about to lose here? Unveiling 4 massive wings, he offers them a chance at eternal beauty as noble demons instead. Looking down, Serial calls Yuri the only exception to the rule, a monster who willingly gave up his humanity for power. Only one man remains standing. No more interruptions. This fight is going to the very end. Serial wonders if Yuri can even touch his true form. Tapping into his past life abilities, he declares his mission will never change as a golden aura explodes around him. With his sword in one hand and magic in the other, our hero declares that anyone standing in the way will be crushed. Serial smiles, summons a black scythe, and charges straight for Yuri. They meet in a blur of motion, trading blows with speed and power that defies logic. Yuri slips a strike, gains some ground, and fires another massive energy wave at the demon. Serial spins his scythe like a shield before hurling it directly at Yuri. Our hero vaults over the weapon and sprints toward the demon. But the demon controls the scythe, making it curve back to shred Yuri from every angle. Though covered in deep cuts and bleeding, Yuri refuses to stay down for long. Serial mockingly asks where all that confidence went, but Yuri is focused on using his eyes to analyze his opponent's strange weapon. He realizes the scythe is drinking his blood, growing more powerful with every single drop. The demon closes in again, overwhelming Yuri with a barrage of lethal strikes. Yuri is slowing down fast from the blood loss, and he knows that speed gap is going to be fatal very soon. Suddenly, the god of wind's breath erupts. Trust me, this changes everything. Trust me, you and I are about to see a knight pushed to his absolute limit. Klaus and Masterson are barely standing, but they beg Arthur not to fall here. The demon sees they are still conscious, and snarls that it changes nothing. He will end them all, starting with the 2 mages. Arthur suddenly blurs forward using gale magic, blocking Lord Serial's path. He mocks the monster, claiming the tides have finally turned. The 2 titans clash in midair. It is a brutal dance of steel and magic, with Serial's strikes nearly ending Arthur multiple times. Their battle rages across the cavern, making the very lava tremble. Now watch closely. Arthur realizes he is barely matching Serial's power and must finish this fight before the demon adapts to his style. Summoning his fire, the boy manifests a blazing phoenix dragon and hurls the inferno directly at his demonic foe. Seeing the move that killed his clone, the demon simply opens a dark world of shadows, swallowing Arthur into an indescribable, empty abyss. Lord Serial laughs, calling it a pity, as he had already countered Arthur's ultimate move. In this void, the young knight is completely powerless. The fourth lord tells Arthur it is finally over. He has surpassed his rival and will soon stand beside that dark king. However, like a phoenix rising, a light begins to shine from within the young man. Check this out. Arthur shatters the darkness with flames hot enough to burn hell itself, leaving the demon wondering what kind of holy form this is. Flare gives his ally a boost, declaring that Lord Serial is finished now that Arthur has decided to end him. Enraged, the demon summons a swarm of cursed spirits, screaming at how many times they'll interfere. He's honestly disappointed in Arthur's lack of strength. He mocks the knight for once being a solitary warrior, who now pathetically needs help from these supposed allies just to survive. Charging with a sphere of void magic, he screams that Arthur is a disgrace to his noble kind. He unleashes his dark energy, asking if this is the freedom the boy wanted, but his magic has no effect on Arthur now. The boy admits he doesn't care what happens to the world as long as he is free, but life isn't that simple. He realizes his true freedom belongs with his friends, and honestly, you and I can see why he is finally fighting for them. Arthur ignites his blade with a divine roar and lunges, driving the steel through Lord Serial with unmatched power.